Evening and welcome to our May 18th Brookline School Committee meeting. I'm Linus Guillory, Superintendent of Schools, and I will be temporarily presiding over the meeting until we elect a president. Meeting is now in order. The May 18th, 2023 meeting of the Brookline School Committee is called to order. I would like to read the letter from the town clerk, Ben Kaufman, confirming that newly elected members have taken their oath of office. I, Ben Kaufman, town clerk for the town of Brookline, duly qualified and acting as such, and having custody of the records, hereby certify that at the May 2nd, 2023 annual town election, held in accordance with MGL Chapter 41, Section 1, Suzanne Federspiel, Andy Liu, and Mariah Nobrega were elected members of the school committee for the town of Brookline for a 3-year term, and Natalia Linos was elected a member of the school committee for the town of Brookline for a term of 1 year. I further certify, in accordance with MGL Chapter 41, Section 15, that Suzanne Federspiel, Andy J. Liu, Mariah C. Nobrega, and Natalia Linos were sworn to the faithful performance of their duties as members of the school committee for the town of Brookline. Signed by Ben Kaufman, town clerk. So let's congratulate Suzanne, Andy, Mariah, and Natalia. So at this time, the school committee chair and vice chair are to be elected for 1-year term by a majority of those members present. Unless a vote is taken to the contrary, no member may serve as chair for more than 2 consecutive 1-year terms. At this time, I'll ask for nominations for the office of chair. Suzanne makes the motion. Stephen is seconded.
Oh, no, I haven't made
I'm
it.
sorry. We're opening nominations.
We're voting to open.
We're voting to
Oh.
open nominations for chair. See, I told Betsy I was going to make a gaffe at some point. Ms. Fitzpatrick, will you call the roll?
Call the roll now to close the nominations for chair.
No, I haven't mentioned that.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's.
Okay, so I would like to nominate David Perlman for chair for this coming year.
I'd like to second it.
It's been moved and seconded it's moved by Suzanne and seconded by Stephen to nominate David for chair. Betsy, you want to call the roll?
And why don't we just?
Are there any other nominations? No other nominations. It's been moved and seconded that David be named chair. Betsy, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, votes Helen?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Val?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Mariah?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And Natalia?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome. Congratulations, Chair Perlman.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. So now do we have to close?
I think we have to nominate the vice chair.
We have to do vice chair. So at this time, I'll take nominations for the office of vice chair. David?
I would like to nominate Andy Liu.
Is there a second? Stephen is seconding.
I'll second it.
Are there any other nominations? So at this time, Ms. Fitzpatrick, will you call the roll?
Okay, roll call for the office of vice chair. Helen?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Val?
Aye. Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mariah?
Yes.
Natalia?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations, Vice Chair Liu. At this time, I will pass the gavel over to Chair Perlman. I'm going to move the chairs and grab your respective name passes.
Betsy, are we supposed to have a copy of the agenda? Oh, I'll steal it back from him. Thank you.
Do we have to reappoint the secretary? Okay. Okay.
So we do have one other position to vote on, which is to appoint the executive assistant to serve in the office of secretary of the school committee. You may. Go ahead, Helen.
It is with great pleasure that I nominate Betsy Fitzpatrick to be our secretary of the school committee.
And do we have a second? Thank you, Suzanne. Suzanne seconds. So now we will do the roll call vote. Mariah?
Absolutely.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Stephen?
Definitely.
Andy?
Yes.
Of
Helen?
course, yes.
Natalia?
Yes.
Nancy?
Absolutely, yes.
Valerie?
Enthusiastic, yes.
And I also vote yes. Congratulations. All right, so that now brings us to administrative business, and we begin with the consent agenda. Would someone like to move it?
So moved.
Okay. Suzanne moves it. Looks like Mariah seconds. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Are we ready to go straight to a vote? Seeing no questions, let's go to the vote. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say for the public that we actually saw, most of us saw this yesterday at Finance, and there is a long list, and we do appreciate people donating and participating in so many fundraisers. So thank you to the public.
All right. Mariah, your vote?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Stephen?
Abstain.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Natalia?
Now I'm going to ask you a question. Should I be abstaining since there's records that I wasn't part of?
It is up to you. So many school committee members do abstain when they haven't attended a meeting or they're not fully familiar with the records.
I'll abstain.
Okay. Nancy?
I concur with Suzanne and I vote yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. That brings us to the possible vote to not participate in the school choice program for the 23-24 school year. The interdistrict school choice law contained in the Education Reform Act of 1993 requires that all districts accept incoming school choice students unless there is a vote to the contrary by June 1st of each year. The vote must follow a hearing on the issue of whether or not to participate. The school committee held a public hearing on school choice on February 2nd, 2023. It was combined with a public hearing on the FY24 proposed budget. The FY24 proposed budget does not include funds for school choice. I make a motion that the public schools of Brookline not participate in the school choice program for the 23-24 school year. Any discussion prior to a vote?
Need a second.
You need a second, but any discussion? No? Okay. Suzanne, do you second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mariah, your vote?
I'm voting yes, not to, right? That's what I vote? Okay, yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Natalia?
Abstain.
Nancy?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Guillory?
Good evening. It's great to have you all here with us tonight. And we will jump right into our superintendent's update for May 18th. So we'll walk through some community highlights, share some updates on the superintendent's school visits, as well as walk through some important dates and the spotlight on excellence. BEEP celebrates 50 years in the community with an art show at the Public Library at Brookline showcasing student artwork. This exhibition runs May 18th through June 26th with an opening reception scheduled for Sunday, June 4th from 3 to 4:30. The exhibition showcases artwork made possible by artist Aaron Palazzo Laparo, and a generous grant from the Brookline Education Foundation. The show will feature the works of over 250 students ages 2 through 5 across 19 classrooms at BEAT. And so we're very pleased with this progress of our students. PSB's tradition of welcoming our rising kindergarten student continues as Peak in Practice begins Thursday, May 25th for our K through 8 schools. All K students and families who have completed registration are invited to visit their school after school hours and meet with their teachers and classmates. Families are also invited to attend an information session with school staff as well. And this would be welcoming the class of 2036. Congratulations to the BHS students competing in the robotics team and Shop Chop for their spectacular finishes in the recent tournaments. The robotics team finished second overall at the 2023 New England Regional Bot Ball Tournament on Saturday, May 6th, and the Shop Chop tied for first place at the Tech Challenge New England Regional Showcase on Saturday, May 13th. And I think I saw Mr. Petty a little while ago. There he is. Mr. Petty's in the room. Congratulations for that hard work of the students and your leadership there. I recently completed school visits. Lincoln, I was at Lincoln on Wednesday, Pierce Thursday the 11th, and then FRR on the 17th. Upcoming, I will be at BHS on the 19th, Beat, Baker, Heath, and Driscoll in the coming week. And so look forward to visiting those campuses as well as seeing what's happening in and around our classrooms. On Wednesday, May 3rd, the community planning team began drafting objectives and intended outcomes for the district multi-year strategic plan. The community planning team will meet again for the final time next week, Wednesday, May 24th, to draft a final plan to present to the district leadership team in June for review, as well as bringing that forward to the school committee. And Dr. Gilbert, I think, will be here at our next meeting to walk us through the work that's been happening. And then we will also be working with our school leaders to to get student input, as well as make sure our faculty and staff have input and give us feedback on the work thus far. And with that, our Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Day is Saturday, May 20th. So please make sure that you are attending and paying attention to the flyers. I think Hey Young has been spearheading quite a bit of this out of our equity office, and so we want to give her a shout out. Chavot is Thursday, May 25th through Saturday, May 27th. And again, a reminder, just in case that you are not aware, Memorial Day holiday is Monday, May 29th, and school and district offices are closed at that time. We want to remind our community that our upcoming graduation dates are on the calendar. BHS will return to Cypressville June 4th at 12 noon. Runkle will have its moving up ceremony for its 8th graders Friday, June 16th. Heath, Lawrence, and Pierce will commence Tuesday, June 20th at 4 p.m. Baker will be Tuesday, June 20th at 4:30 p.m. Driscoll, Lincoln, Ruffin Ridley will be Tuesday, June 20th at 5 p.m. So lots of graduations that are happening in the coming weeks. And so we want to make sure that we put that out far enough in advance for our community. And with that, we are going to turn our spotlight on excellence to the Florida Ruffin Ridley School for their Equity Parent Advisory Council. We're pleased to be shining the spotlight on excellence this evening on the Florida Ruffin Ridley School's Equity Pact and their newest initiative, the first ever Kindness Fair. The Equity Pact is a volunteer-led group of FRR families and community members whose mission is to promote equity in our school community, including racial and social justice, inclusion and diversity of backgrounds, abilities, and identities. I'm happy to turn the mic over to FRR School Principal Jen Buller and members of the Equity Pact to tell us more about their work and the Kindness Fair. And with that, Ms. Buller.
Thanks so much, Dr. Guillory. Hello, school committee. It's great to see you. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person with you all. I'm really excited to reintroduce you to our FRR Equity PAC. They are some familiar faces to you when they were here last year to talk a little bit about the Ruffin Ridley Readers and Leaders and how that has expanded to be the Brookline Readers and Leaders and the amazing work that they're doing. And the next amazing thing that they have taken on is this kindness fair that we are excited to launch in a week. Next week. So I am going to turn it over to Kristen Hung and some other folks here from the Equity PAC and some students who are going to share a little bit about all the kindness and amazing work that they are doing on behalf of our community.
Thank you, Ms. Buller, and thank you to Dr. Guillory and the school committee for having us. We feel lucky to be able to come back and to shine the spotlight on some of the work that our students are doing in our school. Just a little bit of background to reiterate, the FR Equity PAC was started in 2020 at the height of the pandemic as a way to provide space and opportunity for our community to combat the racism, hate, and division in the world that we were feeling around us. And so we are a group of volunteers who are connected with the school in one way or another. All of us have loved ones who are current or former students, and we just want to see the school community grow as a place where our children can feel wholly accepted, appreciate one another, and step into the world with a sense of purpose and compassion. Our mission, plural, I suppose, is to celebrate the diversity of our collective community and challenge ourselves to be more inclusive, more kind, and have a justice-minded outlook, and step into advocacy for others. And so we are always looking for ways to partner with our own administration and staff, as well as members of the Brookline community and other schools. And that's partly why we've been able to do the Brookline Readers and Leaders. So I wanted to recognize a lot of the work that's been going on. I'm going to hand it off to some of my team members now as we take you through what we did this year, but also what we're hoping to do next week and next year. And we welcome more resources and connections with leaders and all of you to make that happen. So I will hand it over to Liz Schneider now. Liz, you're muted.
There you go. Thanks, Kristen. So like Jen had mentioned, the Florida Ruffin Ridley Equity PAC started a Ruffin Ridley Readers and Leaders program 2 years ago. And this year we've expanded and became the Brookline Readers and Leaders. We have a bunch of Brookline schools that get together every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Zoom, and we read books about a whole bunch of different topics, including equity, inclusion, racial and social justice. So if you don't know about it, I would encourage you all to log in on Wednesdays and join us. And if you ever have a book in mind, we'd love suggestions. And then I think then you went to the slide before. So there. So our next initiative, while we're all here, is the Kindness Fair. And this is
recording stopped.
Kind of like a science fair, volunteer expo put together.
Recording in progress.
Where students who are making an impact in the community with service or volunteer work to share what they're doing and to show it off with a poster or a project. Next slide. Here's our poster that we have this year. The Kindness Fair will be next week during our book fair family night in the Florida Ruffin Ridley Library. And I think it's important to note that there's so many ways to volunteer out there. And I don't think people realize how many ways, and being part of this planning process for this pilot kind of kindness fair has taught me a lot of new ways where I could serve the community in Florida Rough and Ridley, or larger in Brookline, or even, larger internationally. So it's actually pretty easy to find what interests you and then what inspires you in any of those topics or populations. You can then formulate a plan and a project to help them. So people coping with illness, the elderly, people who have housing insecurity, or even caring for animals, caring for our garden. So we have a few students present today who are going to share their Kindness Fair projects. So these are real examples of some of the Kindness Fair projects that you'll see this year, next week. So I think we're going to start off with Sylvie and Freya. They're in grade 5, and their topic is December advocacy to end human trafficking.
Us. Okay. Hello, my name is Sylvie, and I am in the 5th grade. December all started when one person, Blythe Hill, wanted to raise awareness and money to stop human trafficking by wearing a dress in December. Human trafficking is when someone is forced to do something they don't want to. It is like modern-day slavery.
Hello, my name is Freya, and I'm in 5th grade. We started in December when we were in 1st grade. The reason why we do it is because human trafficking affects girls and women the most. And of course, I love wearing dresses. Also, in the middle picture, that is me and Sylvie when we were in 1st grade.
And then the one to the left is us in 5th grade. And then the one to the right, it has Blythe in it.
And our family.
Thank you.
So we have our second group partly in person. I believe Niam might be in the room right now. So he'll share, I believe, person.
Okay. I'm just gonna hold Niam's poster up. That's my job.
It's okay, whatever. My name is Niam, and I discovered a project in the cafeteria, and it's music in the cafeteria. And for the Feel, Imagine, Do, Share, the stages, I'm going to share what I did and what there's more to do. So for the Feel, I felt that there's music in the cafeteria and there's not music, and there's nothing to cheer people up when they're mad or sad. And then I imagined that I could do something about it, and I thought, what could I do about it? So we started a whole petition, who wants music in the cafeteria, and what days, and why do you want it? And then we gave that to the principal, Miss Bowler, and Mr. Similaris, and they gave us some feedback and asked us, well, there can be more questions. So we thought we could do more questions like, what kind of music do you like rock music, in, like, you could say calm music. And then we did the petition for the do stage, and then for the share part, we haven't shared it with a lot of people, but as you can see, we have gone to different classes, so they know, and some people are with us about it, and but we have shared it with some people. And why I thought of this idea was a lot of people were not, like, there's a lot of bullying in the school, and that's not acceptable. So I did something about that, and I said that I'm going to relate it with the music in the cafeteria by saying, well, if there's music in the cafeteria, maybe that's a way to cheer them up when they're having a bad day and have a good end of the day. And there's more to come. But I got a lot of support from my friend Levi. But they're not all older grades are bad. Well, you can say bad, and they're not bad for fun. They just want to be cool. Some people are trying their best to be the nicest of themselves, best that they can be, and some people are being mean maybe or mad for a reason, and they're taking it out on. Maybe this is a reason. Well, imagine someone lost their dog and they took it out on you. And yeah.
Thank you. And our third group will be Isha and Rohit, and they have some to share. I believe I saw them signed on.
Hi, my name is Isha Shrivastava. I'm a second grader at FR, and my project is called Word for Warmth, and I wanted to help the kids who don't have a safe home. And I got the idea from the book Matilda. And the problem is that some kids don't have a safe home and they can feel lonely. And I thought that I can help by sending letters with kind words in it. And I can also send books to the DCA. And then I made this poster and I drew some pictures.
So that was just the tip of the iceberg, we hope, for this year and next year and going forward, where we can connect students with each other and with community resources. So I'm going to hand it over to another team member, Erica Anderson, to talk a little bit more.
Thanks, Kristen, and mostly thanks to our kids tonight who were so brave to share what they're doing. And who not just for the sharing tonight, but for doing this, we're doing these amazing projects literally for years. We've heard from a couple of them before, and our leaders and readers have been sharing what they've been doing. So if I can get you all to just give them another big round of applause, because and I want to thank you. We're really grateful that we've had this opportunity to share this new initiative that we're trying. And I wanted to just give a little bit more insight into what the kids are going to be sharing their projects. And then we're also going to be having some interactive activities at the fair too, where we're going to have some blanket making that are going to be donated for unhoused people at the food pantry. And we're going to have a station where kids can write thank you notes to people in the community, just to continue to get people thinking about just what Liz was saying, that there are so many different ways that we can just do little things for people right here in our school community, people right here in the Brookline community, and to get our kids thinking and our teachers and our families thinking about what we can do, small steps every single day to be kinder and to be a better community for one another, and how we can support one another. And this is just the first, kind of pilot project that we're doing for the Kindness Fair. And we're really glad that we could share with you what's happening and what are the steps forward that we're doing and how we're going to be doing this in the school this year. But we want this to become a community event. And so that we're hoping that next year, just like acts of kindness can be really small, but we often don't know how those acts of kindness can ripple and become much, much bigger and greater out in our community. And so we're hoping that this small fair that we're doing this year and these small acts, or that can feel like small acts that our kids are doing, actually can have that big ripple effect, and that this fair can do the same thing. So hopefully next year, this community and all of you can be a part of this also. So be thinking about that, and we hope that we can see you there next year. So thanks again for giving us this opportunity, and we really appreciate it. And we appreciate these kids and everything they're doing too. So thanks a lot.
All right, so thank you very much for that presentation. Very impressive, especially hearing directly from the students. And Liam, thank you very much for coming here in person and providing your very insightful commentary on the human psyche and what motivates us. I think that you're going to be a budding psychologist, perhaps. We'll see. So I look forward to hearing more from you and from the rest of you as well. Thank you to those who joined via Zoom. Now, first, I'd like to ask whether any school committee members have questions or comments. Nancy, go ahead.
That was amazing. That is, it's so wonderful to hear and see people being kind to each other, because I feel like we don't get to see that enough. But to think that the whole school has taken an initiative and reached out to the community to understand, to share kindness. This is absolutely wonderful. I wish every school, I would love to talk to you about like how to partner maybe with another school and then another school and then another school within Brookline to really truly make this a community event. I commend you, whoever got this started. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I see you pointing, and all of you did such a wonderful, wonderful thing. Erica Anderson, I see them pointing at you. If this is your brainchild, this was some great work. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this. And on behalf of Brookline, thank you so much.
It's the whole team. They're pointing at me because they have to hear me talk about it.
Well, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. Just what we need.
Anyone else? Mariah?
I just wanted to say thank you too, and particularly what I found very enjoyable was the variety, and it was clear that each student was very invested in their program. And so I think that there's nothing more meaningful than having that feeling of something that you've chosen yourself and brought forward. So thank you to the students for caring so much and for giving them the opportunity to have this happen. So really great.
All right, and thank you to all of you for participating and sharing this with us. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Guillory now.
On behalf of the Public Schools of Brookline, we present the Spotlight on Excellence. It's awarded to the Ruffin Ridley Equity PAC with gratitude and appreciation for your continued work to make the school community kinder, more inclusive, and more equitable, and with our best wishes for success on the occasion of the first Kindness Fair. Congratulations.
Now, you're all certainly free to remain with us for the rest of our meeting, or part of it if you would like, but we understand if you want to call it a night. Thank you again for joining us. We now turn to public comment. Oh, sorry.
Can I
Sure, go ahead,
say
Stephen.
Before public comment, just for what it's worth, there are a lot of members of the BEU here right now, and I'll also just say that your presentations were heard by a lot of BEU representatives, and just it's a rare occasion. I just wanted to say, for what it's worth, that the school committee and the BEU get to both be just responding and smiling and clapping at the same thing. And I just want to say, it was just kind of a nice feeling before public comment that we're all just sort of for what it's worth, just smiling and cheering. It's a nice feeling to be on the same side and just cheering on the kids. Just want to say.
So on that very positive note, we will now turn to public comment. And first up, we have 3 students, but we'll begin with Zoe Raybold.
Okay. I'm speaking with Chloe, but we're both speaking for 2
Okay.
minutes. First of all, trigger warning, we're talking about gun violence. Okay. My name is Zoe and I'm a senior at BHS. On May 3rd, 2023, at 8:20 in the morning, a student at BHS brought a BB gun to school and showed it off to their friends. At 10:45, the administration was notified of a possible firearm in the school, and the student was searched. After the student fled the premises, local police were notified, and the student was arrested on Davis Ave with possession of a BB gun. Students and families were notified about the specifics at 6:38 p.m. through a mass email. Gun violence runs rampant in this country, and we believe our school is ill-equipped to deal with this issue. Even while the weapon was presumed to be an actual gun, there was no lockdown, and the Brookline Police Department was not called until after the student fled school grounds. I believe that this response was insufficient and that undue fear was spread due to poor communication on behalf of the administration. I was in the middle of science class on May 3rd when I heard an ambiguous announcement over the loudspeaker stating that an incident had occurred. Confused, I asked what happened, and my peer whispered over to me, "A gun." My heart dropped. I frantically texted my brother, who is a freshman, asking if he was okay. I truly felt scared for him and myself. Even after it was revealed to have been a BB gun at 6:38 that night, I felt uneasy. I don't feel safe going to school, and neither does much of the student body. We live in a reality where, in addition to schoolwork, students have to learn how to survive. During class, my 14-year-old brother thinks about how he would jump onto a ledge from his 4th floor classroom to escape if there was a shooter. A school made of glass may look pretty, but when it's the only barrier between you and a potential armed invader, pretty is not enough. The school is currently failing at its most important job, keeping us safe.
My name is Chloe Geller, and I am also a senior at BHS. We would like the school committee to recognize the severity of this issue and take steps to protect students and faculty. One action would be to ensure the administration issues school IDs to students at unlocked doors. Currently, Brookline High School is completely open, and most doors are unlocked throughout the day. This makes it easy for anybody to enter the building undetected. At the beginning of the school year, we were promised school IDs and locked doors, but never received either. We want the school to follow through on their promises, as this is a critical step to keeping our school safe. The open campus policy for students can coexist with measures that keep those inside the building safe. We are not here to criticize, but we want an open conversation. Another course of action would be for the school committee to ensure their restorative justice policy is followed and to encourage more preventative measures be taken. We are especially interested in taking a restorative approach and ensuring that students who are struggling are given the proper resources. When school shootings occur in the United States, people talk about the warning signs. For most incidents, including this one, there are warning signs, but the administration does not take them seriously. From TikTok trends about school shooting day and fights right inside our halls, these signs are brushed aside. Warning signs like these need to be taken seriously by administration, and students who harm or threaten to harm others in school should be given the help they needed, and the school must ensure that they cannot harm anyone else. This is not about the student who brought a BB gun to school. This is about the overall safety of students and the lack of preventative measures taken by the administration. I am worried about what happens if someone brings a real gun to school with the intention to cause harm. Just because we live in Brookline does not mean we are exempt from real-world problems. There are over 2,000 students that roam these halls, plus the teachers, coaches, and administrators. We would all feel safer if we had a comprehensive course of action to protect our community. We hope that the school committee can help our schools to take gun violence more seriously and update their policies to better protect students and staff.
All right, our next speaker is Ariel Horberg-Dechter. And just as a reminder for those of you who are watching, it is the custom of school committee and most boards in town not to engage in dialogue during public comment. So I don't want anyone to feel a personal affront that you're not hearing from us directly afterwards. We certainly do talk about a lot of the issues that are brought to our attention, but they're separately docketed and not part of public comment.
Hello, my name is Ariel Horberg-Dechter. I live at 1752 Beacon Street, and I'm a 7th grader at the Michael Driscoll School. I'm here to talk about my idea for a more healthy, less wasteful, environmentally friendly idea. Default veg. What is it? It is my idea for our school lunches. It would mean that Brookline public school lunches will be vegetarian to start with. Then, there would be a much smaller amount of meat set aside if people really needed it. I sent out a survey to my middle school, and 81% of them said that they were not vegetarian or chose to not eat meat, but 80% of people said they would still have lunch if there was no meat. As a vegetarian who gets school lunch, it is hard for me to get a good meal with protein. Sometimes, if the lunch is nachos, there will be no vegetarian protein substitute for the meat. There's only meat and cheese. That means that vegetarians are left with only cheese. When there is meat for lunch, which is every day except Monday, there is no good protein option for me or my peers who observe the same diet as me. That can affect my behavior and schoolwork throughout the rest of my day. It can make it hard to concentrate. Of course, there are cold options, but they almost always include more meat. Meat waste can affect our health, animal welfare, water, and the environment. Our health. Meat waste can make very bad gases that contaminate our air that we need to breathe. Water. The manure from animals can get into our water that is needed to drink, cook, or bathe. It takes approximately 1,847 gallons of water to produce just 1 pound of pork, and 718 gallons of water to produce it takes 1,847 gallons to produce 1 pound of beef, 718 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of pork, and 518 gallons of water to produce a pound of chicken. Compare that to this 39 gallons required to produce 1 pound of vegetables, or 115 gallons of water required to produce 1 pound of fruit, and 202 gallons to produce 1 pound of beans. Environment. The waste from meat gets incinerated in Massachusetts, just like all of our trash. When the food gets incinerated, all of its gases get released into the air and add to the greenhouse effect. Animal welfare. The animal meat trade is terrible for animals. CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations, are terrible for animal welfare. They can find over 1,000 animal units for 45 days in a very small space. 1,000 animal units can be equal to 700 dairy cows, 1,000 meat cows, 10,000 sheep, 50,000 turkeys, and 125,000 chickens. That is a terrible environment and super bad for animals. CAFOs can also produce millions of tons of manure each year. By having default veg, it can assure parents that their child will be well fed at school. A lot of families are not able to pack their kids' lunch every day, and if they have a little kid, it can be hard to make sure they don't eat meat. Vegetarian protein can also be less expensive than meat. That could help our school system with cutting back the food budget and hopefully being able to keep our school lunches free. Default veg would be good for Brookline schools and Brookline students because students need good food to be able to work and pay attention throughout the school day. Families can rely on the lunch if their children are vegetarian or don't like meat, and it would inspire other places to make a choice that is good for the environment as well as children. Thank you.
Now we have another student who's in the 9th grade. I'm sorry I don't have your name on the list, but if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, Hello, school committee members. My name is Taya Waldispiel, and I'm a 9th grader at Brookline High School. I am here to speak about the needs for our paraprofessionals. Our paraprofessionals work with our most vulnerable students, and I am one of them. 5 years ago, I found out I had a rare form of migraine, which gives me severe concussion symptoms daily. Every day, I have vertigo, nausea, pain, cognitive brain fog, and vision issues. I can't perceive numbers, symbols, and equations. I also move in and out of double vision throughout the day. My apologies if I have difficulty reading this today. As you can imagine, this makes getting to school very difficult for me. I'm exhausted just getting into school. I am limited in what electives and classes I can access due to travel. I can't access visual and worksheets, charts that are normally teaching tools independently. Last year in 8th grade at Pierce, I worked primarily with amazing paraprofessionals. Ms. Costa, while she wasn't assigned to me, she was in all my classes and would sit with me and help me access material and to advocate for my needs, and helped me emotionally and physically through the day. Without her, I would have not made it through 8th grade. My peers and engaged classes that challenged me intellectually despite my symptoms. Thank you, Ms. Costa and Ms. S. This year at BHS, while I was recommended for honors English, I was told there would be no support for me to do so with a para. In honors, standard, or co-taught English or social studies, due to not having a paraprofessional support, I was unable to be with my peers in any other of the 3 levels. Only option was to be in small group English, far below my capabilities. After 2 months, I was finally able to change into co-taught English and social studies. But again, my visual accommodations and academic support could not be met as they had at Pierce, despite my loving English and being a responsible student. I am only one student has benefited from a paraprofessional. Currently, I am not in the classes I believe I could be if there were more paraprofessionals to support students. I believe our paraprofessionals allow our most vulnerable students to achieve educationally at the highest possible level for them. They deserve to have higher pay for what they do, provide access to education. They deserve to have paid lunch. We need more well-paid paraprofessionals to help our vulnerable students achieve. Our students deserve more of these hardworking and essential professionals. I hope the school committee will support a new union contract, recognizing the valuable work they do by increasing their pay and contract terms. Please give them the respect they deserve as they help our students who need and deserve the greatest help to stay safe and to learn in their highest potential. Thank you.
All right, next we have a group of 5 K-8 world language teachers who will be speaking. Isabella de la Torre, Allison Kerr, Shenandoah Pon, Victoria Ridge, and Laura Brady.
Hello, my name is Shenandoah Pound, or Profe, and I teach K-4 Spanish at the Runkle School. I stand with my colleagues in fighting for schools that are fully funded and fully staffed, educators who are fully respected, and a district that is fully equitable. We reject the proposed budget cuts and urge you to fully fund our schools. First, we would like to thank the members of the school committee for all of your work to make sure the override passed. Thank you also to the voters who sent a resounding message of support for our schools by making sure the town has the funding needed to maintain programs such as K-8 World Language. We really all are on the same side. We are here to voice our concerns about the unmanageable workloads that many of our colleagues in the K-8 World Language Department have been given. We have had long-standing concerns that have become more serious in recent years. This year alone, several teachers on our team have had to take leaves of absence, citing untenable workloads. At times, students are going months without a language teacher at all because the district cannot find anyone who is willing to take on these impossible jobs. The district has funded a review of our program with the goal of improving our curriculum, yet we cannot implement changes when so many of us are operating in survival mode. I'd like to highlight that the issues you will hear about tonight are not universal or unsolvable. Some buildings work with their teachers to make sure workloads are manageable and consistent. Unsurprisingly, many of those teachers stay in the department, honing their craft and building meaningful relationships in their school communities. I think all of you would want your own children to have one of those teachers instead of a revolving door of substitutes. My colleagues will now read a letter written by the World Language Team in collaboration with the BEU and signed by over 700 educators. We are not asking for drastic changes. We are simply asking the school committee to work with us to create guidelines that ensure reasonable workloads for all the world language teachers so that every student can benefit from this amazing program. Hello, my name is Victoria Ridge, also known as Profe in my school community, and I proudly teach 6th to 8th grade Spanish at the Heath School. The K-8 World Language Program in the public schools of Brookline supports the kind of cutting-edge learning that contributes to the excellent reputation of this town's schools. Lauded upon its arrival in 2008, K-8 World Language today is being seriously weakened due to systemic problems faced by too many of its teachers and impacting too many students. As members of the Brookline Educators Union, we call on the school committee or its designee to immediately return to the bargaining it began over an agreement to ensure the continued success of K-8 World Language. Such an agreement must prioritize the issues of scheduling and staffing. A contractual agreement is the only way to guarantee that the educators responsible for the success of the K-8 World Language Program are treated fairly, equitably, and with respect. BEU members stand together knowing that the schedule of our K-8 colleagues are intertwined with ours and that teaching is a joint whole community endeavor. We reject any district strategy that undermines one subject area or educational service, and thus the educators responsible for it, in an effort to meet the needs of another. We know that schools are communities in which students and adults only flourish when everyone does.
My name is Laura Brady, and I teach 5th and 6th grade Spanish at both the Heath and Runkle schools. I'm continuing to read the letter. Currently, too many K-8 World Language Program educators are given excessively high student loads and untenable scheduling involving erratic teaching locations, no limit to the number of grade levels taught, and no limit to the number of sections. Furthermore, they are typically excluded from team meetings due to scheduling. In 2015, the Brookline voters approved a tax hike to specifically support the K-8 World Language Program, whereas today, these dedicated educators face precarious employment and are frequently threatened with layoffs. Over the past 5 years, more than a dozen K-8 World Language educators, over half in the program, have left the Brookline School District. The BEU sees this as a failure on the part of the district to support an important program with a racially and ethnically diverse staff that promotes respect for diverse cultures and knowledge about the world beyond the town borders. Allowing further weakening of the K-8 World Language Program would be a devastating blow to the public schools of Brookline's attempts to be a more culturally responsive school district for students and staff alike. For these reasons, the BEU is asking for immediate action on the part of the school committee to reach an agreement that protects the K-8 World Language Program. This was signed by the members of the K-8 World Language Program and over 700 of our colleagues across the district.
My name is Isabella Delatorre and I teach at FRR. My students call me Profe D, and this year I'm teaching 2nd, 4th, and 5th graders. You met some of my students today, and I just love my job. I am so thankful that my coordinator, my principal, my vice principals have been able to give me the schedule, but unfortunately it has not always been the case for me. And this year, as you know, it wasn't the case for several of my colleagues who fought so hard to get an equitable and manageable workload, yet they were pleased were not enough. I was fortunate to not be in that position this year. And I would like to share just briefly what difference that makes. This year, I had proper time to plan so many new and interesting projects that my students and I embarked on. My students and I got to connect with students in Spain who are learning English, and we got to exchange several messages with them about who they are and what their school looks like. We dove into several traditional festivals. We wrote and recorded audiobooks. We made videos reenacting and using vocabulary that we had learned and practiced in class together. We had fun. We explored together. We created with the language. We recreated real life scenarios. And I think that we all agree that Brookline students should have those opportunities. All teachers should have a manageable schedule and workload so they can open up opportunities for their students to explore, create, and enjoy. Please come to the negotiating table with us and help us create these opportunities for Brookline teachers and their students.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison Kerr. I teach 6th through 8th grade French at both Heath and Runkle schools. The discrepancies you've heard about this evening regarding language teachers' scheduling, FTE allocations, ability or inability to attend team meetings and special education consultation, and access to essential materials and spaces all lead to vastly different learning conditions for students in world language across the district. You've heard that some positions on our team are appropriately allocated, while others are untenable, leading to considerable turnover. Our decision to approach you this evening is rooted in an urgency to protect what is working well in some of our schools' world language arrangements, while also addressing the circumstances that threaten learning experiences in others. The middle school review consultant Nate Levinson said in his report regarding the lack of guidelines around what constitutes a full-time job in Brookline, saying, quote, "I have worked with 250 school systems and you still surprised me. There is no universal expectation or definition of what constitutes a workload for middle school teachers. That has resulted in uneven use of teacher time." While this report speaks to middle school specifically, we know that these issues are longstanding across the K-8 world language program as well. These inconsistencies contribute to the substantial staff turnover we have addressed tonight. Without teacher retention, we cannot continue to develop our innovative program, which has every potential to be a model statewide. We have seen that there is a threshold of what one can be assigned while still providing the highest quality education. Once that threshold is exceeded, we can no longer be, to the fullest extent that we are able, the innovative, responsive, reflective teachers we are trained to be, we want to be, and that our students deserve. Our program has lost too many teachers, and the latest round of cuts to world language will only further the issues we've presented tonight. Of course, these are glaring issues across all content areas in the district, and our example is one of many. So we invite the school committee to partner with educators in the world language department and other departments to address these concerns. Please help us preserve this incredible program that the voters have once again signaled to desire to support in full, and we thank the voters for doing so. We appreciate your support. The override passed, families have spoken, and the middle school review has highlighted the need for consistency. A K-12 world language program is a rarity in the United States, and given the right conditions, our teachers are doing amazing things. We want every student in Brookline to have an equitable world language education. We need school committee members and the district to negotiate with our team to ensure the best teaching and learning conditions possible in every building across the district. Thank you.
Our next speaker is BEU President Jessica Wender-Shubo.
Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome Dr. Linos in particular to the school committee. Appreciate the work you did with MTA during the height of the pandemic. I know that you certainly are very familiar with the public health concept of moral injury, and I expect that each member of this school committee knows about it as well. The idea of moral injury is a more suitable idea to describe what Brookline educators are experiencing than is a notion that it blames them for the injury, sometimes called burnout. As you all know, moral injury is a kind of harm reflecting prolonged exposure to conditions that violate one's moral code. Such moral injury happens when people are set up for failure by an institution that speaks of high ideals and insists on a commitment to them, and then expects those on whom it depends to carry out the mission to do it under impossible conditions. Moral injury happens to workers when they lay claim to their role, when those who lay claim to their role as leaders fail to provide working conditions and pay that make success possible. The most deadly dimension of moral injury is telling workers their failure to bring moral ideas to life is their fault. Not enough training, not enough skill, not enough dedication. You know, moral injury, as you know, happens to soldiers, and it's happening to educators who are continually told that this town and school district cares about diversity and then super exploits the world language teachers you've heard about, who are the embodiment of a global society, and then pays paraprofessionals a wage that no one can live on. And moral injury happens when a school committee and a superintendent, I'm needing to say candidly to you all, endorse a budget in a wealthy town that will super exploit math and literacy teachers by cutting their supports, and when they sit passively by as dedicated educators who created alternative forms of education during the pandemic are left out of COVID pay. Thankfully, this union, as you see, believes in the solidarity dividend. We'll settle for nothing less than fully funded, fully staffed, and fully equitable schools that respect all educators and all of our students. So we call on you to reject the cuts, to settle the contract, to bargain better treatment for our K-8 world language teachers and program, and then to please join us on the 7th of June to hear Heather McGee, who is brilliantly showing this can be done in this town, in this country. And we would love to have you there with us. Hopefully by then we will have a para contract. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have two paraprofessionals from the Pierce School, Janice McEwen and Kaylee Malcolmson.
Good evening. My name is Janice McEwen, and as Jess said, we are all fighting for schools that are fully funded and fully staffed, educators who are fully respected, and a district that is fully equitable. We reject the proposed budget cuts and urge you to fully fund our schools. Tonight, Kaylee and I would like to speak specifically to the paraprofessional contract. This is my 9th year in Brookline. I'm a career changer. I always had teaching in my heart, so when the timing was right in 2011, I went back to school and got a master's degree and a teaching license. It is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. My first 3 years, I was an assistant and long-term sub in Newton schools. I came to Brookline in 2014 when I learned that Brookline had dedicated kindergarten, first grade classroom paraprofessionals. At this point, I realized that classroom para was the role for me. I love working side by side with the classroom teacher. Whether at Runkle or Pierce, I have always felt like a partner, a co-educator in the classroom. If only my paycheck reflected the value and the pride that I feel. Being an assistant educator, whatever the title is, I like to use ESP or Education Support Professional. This is a profession, and our wage should reflect that. If any town should recognize and appreciate this fact, I would expect it to be Brookline. You'll hear more specifics from Kaylee next, but with the current world we live in, children need more caring adults, positive role models, educators in their life. I'm talking about every child. Cutting back on budgets, it's not going in the right direction. I know this second career of mine will be winding down in the next few years, but I'm completely energized knowing that there are many smart, talented paras in the district, like Kaylee and others in the room and there in Zoom land, who are doing everything they can for Brookline to hear the message. This is a profession. Please be smart enough to recognize us and treat us with the respect and the fair wage we deserve.
Hello, my name is Kaylee and I work at the Pierce School. You will know that paras provide support to students in their learning in the classroom, but that is just one part of what we do. What I think the school committee doesn't understand is just how involved in the overall education of Brookline's children paras really are, not just in their development of subject knowledge, which they most certainly are, but also in their social emotional development. We are there helping kids work through tough conversations with their peers, supporting them unconditionally when they're having tough days, and listening to them when they're dealing with tough personal issues. Paras not only work with teachers in the classroom, but regularly collaborate with their teaching team, help to plan lessons, they help to check work. When teachers are unable to attend work, or have to attend meetings, we are there to ensure learning continues uninterrupted with our students. Here, I've only begun to scratch the surface of all the work that the paras do in our schools. The proposals I've seen from the school committee regarding the para contract do not demonstrate the respect we deserve. We already are struggling to fill all the para positions in the district, and I know firsthand that if we agree to the school committee's proposals as they currently are, we will lose more people and more positions will go unfilled. It's time for the school committee to see us and respect us as the educators we are. Paras deserve a fair contract and a living wage. Thank you.
Our next public commenter is incoming BEU President Justin Brown.
Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Brown. I am a grade 4 educator at the Lawrence School, and I am currently the Contract Action Team Chair for the BEU and the President-elect for this mighty union. I rise tonight to support my colleagues. I work with paras who receive poverty wages for the integral work that they do. I work with colleagues who put in their hardest work as educators, during the 2020-21 school year, but were deemed ineligible for COVID pay. I work with world language educators whose crushing workloads and schedules leave them scrambling at copiers, elevators, odd corners of the hallways, and whose colleagues have been leaving in depressing numbers. And I work with specialists who improve my ability to deliver Tier 1 interventions, who are being reassigned out of support positions as a result of budgetary reductions and the loss of jobs. I rise tonight to support them and to join my colleagues in saying no more. The students of PSB and the educators who teach them deserve a fully funded, fully staffed school system that respects our work and provides equity across our buildings, our grades, our disciplines, and our positions. And I rise tonight to sing a song, and I need everybody's help with this. So if you've got your sheets, this goes out to you, members of the school committee, and everybody out there in the big verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're here to bargain a contract. We're here to win a fair wage. Members are suffering day by day. They get their check, but they can't find a way to make rent, their bills, or some savings. But wait, we've got us a plan. It's a living wage for our paras, and yes, we can. But who is saying no way, folks? The school committee members. They think they know best, but they haven't a clue. They think it's okay, but it's long overdue, and we root for our paras. If they leave us, it's a shame. But we're here, we're one, we're ready to fight, so let's start the game. Woo! Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a math specialist from the Lincoln School, Hillary Rosenzweig.
Hi, I can't compete with that. I'm not going to be singing, I promise. I'm Hillary Rosenzweig. I'm a math specialist at the Lincoln School, and I have been a Brookline educator for 30+ years. I'm very upset that I have to be here today delivering this message. Despite the override, predetermined significant cuts are being made within the literacy and math specialist departments. Our parent community needs to be aware about the deliberate choice to underfund literacy and math and not include us in the override, which is a question that needs to be answered. Why were we not included in the override? As math specialists, we are direct student-facing supports. We work with students who have challenges making effective math progress. We work with students to build their identity, agency, and success with math, and to minimize the need for special education referral and evaluations. We work with students who may have an IEP but do not qualify for math IEP goals and need support to make effective progress. At Lincoln, where I'm a math specialist, we will drop from a 2.0, 2 full-time specialists, to 1.5. I am a 0.5 at Lincoln and 0.5 at another school now. This will be the lowest level of supports in 15 years at a Title I school who has some of the most at-risk students. I personally provide direct instructional support to 120 students a week. In my new reallocation, I will be at 2 schools, 2.5 days, and will only be able to service less than 50% of the students I currently support. This allocation creates a huge mess of ineffective intervention practices. With a single uninformed decision, top leaders in our district have made a huge detrimental mistake that will have large repercussions for our students. Such actions reflect the institutional system of oppression that exists in Brookline. At a time when the district has stated a fundamental message to dismantle barriers to high-quality, rigorous education and provide equitable education for all students, the neediest students were receiving substantially less services, ultimately closing doors and opportunities on students who deserve the same access to high-quality instruction. I encourage our parent community to tell our town administrators and school committee that they will not tolerate such an inequitable practice and to fully fund, fully staff our schools to fully educate all of our students. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a visual arts teacher at the high school, Liz Brennan.
Hi. Okay, so good evening. I'm a visual arts teacher, Liz Brennan, with 32 years in Brookline, 16 at Lincoln School and 16 at the high school. I'm here tonight because of the lack of movement on the paraprofessionals contract. Your proposals and stalling can only mean you need help understanding the paraprofessionals' essential role in our schools. I speak from the perspective of a specialist teaching an elective. Electives are often one of the only general ed classes that students from the special ed population attend. We teach students from across the entire school in the same class. For example, in one class, you'll find students from all grade levels, AP, honors, college prep students, and students from our special ed population, particularly the RISE program. I'll use one of my foundational painting classes as an example. In this class, 4 of the 18 students were students from the RISE program, each with a supporting paraprofessional. In teaching an unleveled class, teachers differentiate the instruction to meet the needs of those in front of them. In this case, we modified the course expectations for these students who were new to the high school. They were freshmen and struggling to adapt to a new environment. These students worked to adjust to routines and norms, move independently through the room to access supplies, experience the media, develop agency and decision-making for the media, and most notably, become a valued member of our community. These 4 students found great success in the class through hard work and the unwavering support of the paraprofessionals. For example, one student in the class picked one of the RISE students' work to discuss during a critique. The RISE student just beamed. The pure joy on his face was incredible. He was part of us. He was part of the team, and he was really, really essential to the community. We're all better when special education students are successfully included in the general ed population. And that can only happen with paras who receive meaningful paid training, are skilled, compassionate, patient, and committed to the student's dignity, safety, and success. And those are the paras that I have in my classroom. You should be aware that 3 of those paraprofessionals in this painting class were women whose home language is Spanish. Why are you trying to put a roadblock between these women and their job by insisting they take a mandatory test in English? If Wegmans can train their employees in their home language, why can't a progressive body of people in an educational setting do the same? You would boycott a store that treated employees so disrespectfully. And I really want you to think of the optics of this policy, as the optics are not good. It appears quite racist. I'm also troubled that you see these jobs as temporary, something to hold you over until you get your real job. Again, let's look at these optics. It seems disrespectful, classist, and elitist. Paraprofessionals come to this job and the 2 and 3 other jobs that they need to hold for various reasons. One of them is lack of generational wealth. Do you want to attract employees with a temporary mindset? Relationships are the underpinning of our students' social emotional learning success, and we should strive to retain paras who will develop meaningful relationships with our students. Why wouldn't you want to create conditions to attract people to stay? Please get to work to fund a mutually agreeable solution in these negotiations. Remaining stagnant in proposals is not negotiating. Currently, there are 17 that I know of unfilled paraprofessional positions. Each of these vacancies means a student is not receiving services mandated by law. Therefore, I urge you to provide a living wage, adopt policies to attract quality candidates, and respect these essential employees' dignity and value to our school. So I have a student who is new to high school and was really struggling engaging in the class. And it was after seeing him roll some yarn around a ball, I thought, oh, let's try something new here. So the paraprofessional and I, we kind of worked together, and this student, and the name is blocked out for his, privacy, loves music, loves the band Queen. So we just got him embroidering with some basic embroidery stitches, and this student is just, he's moving, man. He is so engaged in this. And this is because he has a one-on-one paraprofessional. Otherwise, it would look like this. Thank you.
Our next speaker is high school Spanish teacher Elisa Connor.
Hello. Elisa Connor. I've been teaching at the high school. This is my 23rd year. I'm also a grad, BHS class of 1990. Woohoo! And I have a freshman at the high school who has themselves needed para support, math specialist support, and literacy specialist support. I'm also a resident homeowner, taxpayer, and voter, and we're all fighting for schools that are fully funded, fully staffed, educators who feel fully respected, and a district where we walk our talk fully equitable. And we reject these budget cuts and urge you to fully fund our schools. Urge me, I want to help pay for it. I want to talk about money. Actually, I really don't. I want to be preparing lessons. I want to be thinking about the social and emotional learning and culturally responsive teaching I could be doing. But I want to be focused on this teaching job, which has been it's the hardest it's ever been. The students said there's so much need. Another fight at the high school yesterday. I'm too worried about the erosion of the quality of the education in this town that is my hometown that I love, and I'm worried about my child and our children when we fail to fully invest in our schools. Our educators continue to be stretched to the breaking point, including me, and we cannot squeeze more blood from these stones without severe consequences to the quality for our students. But we don't have to. I understand that this week the town's finance consultant predicted that we're likely to end the year with a budget surplus of around $1 million. Budgets are complicated. I preach at a conscious budget, but I also understand that there's multi-million dollars in our reserve funds. And I also understand that historically our town has consistently underestimated our actual revenue. So we say, when it comes to bargaining, we don't have the resources to fully invest in our children when we do. Parents, students, educators, citizens of Brookline, don't let anybody tell you that we don't have the funds to pay all our employees a living wage, to fully support our valued programs, including the K-8 World Language Program, that we are unable to use federal funds to compensate all educators for the insane challenges of COVID, and also invest in the other public common goods we value in our community. Is it going to cost us to fully invest in our schools and our public good? Yes, but it will cost us more to fail. Esteemed school committee members, don't send this budget onto town meeting. We can do better. Thank you.
Our next speaker is high school robotics teacher David Petty.
My name is David Petty. He and him pronouns. I teach computing and robotics at Brookline High School. We are all the red shirts here, fighting for schools that are fully funded and fully staffed. We reject budget cuts and urge you to amend the budget of its over $1 million in cuts before you send it to town meeting. I'm here to speak about pandemic pay for teachers. Hundreds of our most at-risk students were in need of a distance learning option at the height of the pandemic. Many were at risk because they had pre-existing conditions or were from populations that were more likely to get sick. You needed us. Many of my colleagues volunteered and in some cases were involuntarily transferred to teach at the Remote Learning Academy. We all took on the difficult job called teaching with professionalism and enthusiasm. We all acted to help our students and meet the demands of families. In my case, I have a family health issue. As you can see, I'm still wearing a mask indoors, as I have done in the 2021, 2022, and now the 2023 school year. Because I have a family health issue, I applied to teach remotely, including materials-based courses like robotics, until April of 2021. After that point, I was required to teach every course, including robotics, in hybrid. Every educator I know, like me, worked twice as hard as a regular 100% in-person teaching year. We need to provide American Rescue Plan premium pay to all teachers in the district immediately. The town's decision, without any stated reason, to leave out educators, including me, from this extra but much deserved pay is arbitrary. We can make assumptions about motives, but from the educator's perspective, it was another thoughtless decision made without consulting us or our union. You must pay all teachers.
Our next speaker is Lawrence math specialist Katie McGraw.
My name is Katie O'Reilly McGraw. In my 22 years as a math specialist in Brookline, I have provided direct service to over 5,500 students and over 100 educators. I would like to add to what my colleague Hillary said and give you a bit of perspective on the lack of logic behind your choice to leave out $1.8 million from the override ask and to both increase class sizes and cut support for learners in math and literacy. This week, we received the results of an expensive consultant study that was done this year by the New Teacher Center. This study was prompted by the fact that Brookline was cited for inequities in our referrals of students to special education. The study found that what we as educators already knew, that the best way to address these inequities are through strong daily instruction. They cited 3 things that they were looking for in equitable classrooms: high quality instruction that meets grade level content and rigor called for by the standard, rich tasks that are worthwhile of student effort and time, differentiated opportunities for learning that allow all students access. Sounds fabulous. Those of you who care deeply about the education of all learners in Brookline should know that the way to bring these experiences into classrooms is through robust classroom teaching, which requires manageable class sizes and continued professional development, and timely support for students, which requires in-class support that can be flexible, targeted, and available to all students. As for timely support for students, teachers rely on paraprofessionals in grades K and 1, as well as math and literacy specialists to help provide that tier 1 support, not special education support, to any child who needs it. If that is not available, then the only additional support we can offer is through a referral to special education. What an illogical choice to make to cut those supports. Differentiated opportunities are best achieved in small classes in which teachers are provided continuous support and professional development to meet the diverse needs they encounter. And yet the school committee has decided to make cuts which increase class size and to eliminate the only educators providing professional development for teachers this year. Again, this defies logic. If you don't choose to respect and tap into our expertise as instructional experts, then I can refer you to those same outside consultants. The New Teacher Center states that the most effective way of achieving these goals is through coaching. They say, why coaching? We've seen proven, time-tested results from our coaching. It's the bridge to professional success for educators, capacity building in schools and districts, and better outcomes for students. In addition to this center, both of your current senior directors of teaching and learning have told me personally, early in their careers here, that they feel that the most effective form of professional development is instructional coaching within the building. At an earlier time when we understood this efficacy in Brookline, as well as the need for timely, flexible student-facing services, we created roles that work to both support teacher capacity to meet the needs of students and to provide direct non-special education service to students so as to increase access to high-quality instruction for all students. Now the choice is to severely cut those roles. It seems that this year, none of the budget makers have taken the time to understand equitable teaching or applied the logic to consider what is effective educational practice before deciding how much money to ask for from the voters. That is disrespectful. I strongly encourage you all to demand logical educational decisions and to bring back support for all students.
Our next speaker is Runkle paraprofessional Daniel Hack.
Hello, my name is Daniel Hack, and I'd like to speak about the para contract. I've been a para at Runkle for 4 years, and I love my job, and I pour my heart and soul into it every day. However, because of how little I'm paid, I'm at the point where I cannot afford to keep this job. I already work 30 hours a week at my second job, and I actually make more money there than I do at school, which is incredibly sad and really disheartening. It's honestly soul crushing knowing that soon I'm going to have to leave my students and my colleagues who have become like my second family because you all don't believe in paying people in my position a living wage. And some of you, like Dr. Guillory, you've seen firsthand how hard I work to include students with disabilities in the 2 sports that I coach, as well as going to numerous after-school events where my students want to attend, even though I don't have to be there. But I want to make sure that they feel supported and included. Because at the end of the day, I do this job because I'm passionate about improving the lives of students with disabilities. And I'm a strong believer in the fair and appropriate public education for all. Yeah, and it's, like I said, it's a terrible feeling knowing that I'm not going to be able to continue to do the work that brings me such happiness and joy because you guys don't want to pay us a wage in which I can live in the community in which I work, which is not, it's really sad. And also, we talk a huge game in Brookline about how committed we are to racial equity and justice. You know, there's a giant Black Lives Matter sign outside of this building, yet you refuse to pay the unit with the highest percentage of educators of color a living wage. So either you simply do not care, or you are perfectly fine with contributing to these systems of oppression which you claim to want to fight. None of us, including myself, should have to be up here sharing this with you guys in the first place. I would be more than happy to have further conversations with any of you if you would like. I'm ready to have this dialogue, and I think all of us are. Thank you.
Our next speaker is also a paraprofessional at Runkle, Skylar Jelinas.
Hi, I'm actually here to speak tonight on behalf of Paul Auger, the Assistive Tech Specialist for the district, who couldn't be here. Dear members of the Brookline School Committee, I am the Brookline Schools Assistive Technology Specialist. My role is to help students, families, educators, and service providers in the Brookline community by prescribing devices that allow pre-K to 12th grade students with disabilities access the curriculum, socialize with their peers, and participate in extracurricular activities. Additionally, I work with Brookline students who have disabilities and qualify for services beyond the 12th grade until they turn 22. I take great pride in my responsibility and enjoy my job immensely. It is an honor to serve the Brookline community in this capacity. The fact that Brookline has a full-time assistive technology specialist, alternative and augmentative communication specialist, teacher of the visually impaired, and teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing, in addition to some of the best special educators, occupational therapists, physical therapists, behavior specialists, and adaptive physical educators I have ever worked with, speaks volume about Brookline's unwavering commitment to educating children, including those with special needs. As an employee with cerebral palsy, I appreciate Brookline's dedication to equity for students with disabilities. I hope Brookline will extend this commitment to all employees, including those with disabilities, by ensuring equal access to COVID funds. I boldly advocate for school employees with disabilities who did everything they could during the COVID-19 pandemic while following their doctor's orders and keeping themselves safe. Many of these employees with disabilities came in when it was safe to do so. These employees relied on their doctor's professional guidance and Brookline School District's administration to help them determine when it was safe and whether they needed reasonable accommodations to do so safely in compliance with the American with Disabilities Act. Employees who worked from home still worked and contributed to supporting students, families, and staff during a difficult and trying time. Remote employees worked long hours at home, often longer than they would have if they were physically in the district. Often, educators present in real life depended on those at home to be as successful as they were. Those in person and those at home worked together as a team. For example, I supported many educators with students using assistive technology. I not only helped the student and their family, but the teacher as well. It would be unacceptable, in fact, it may even be discriminatory and a violation of the ADA, to deny these employees access to the $4,000 COVID pay because their medical conditions made it impossible for them to be in the classroom in person, even though they likely wanted to be there more than anything. Likewise, it would be equally unfair to deny access to non-disabled employees who could not come because they cared for young children or elderly relatives or experienced other extenuating circumstances beyond their control. The district must make COVID funds available to all employees. The school committee must ensure equity for all, just as the school committee works for the equity for all of the district students, including those with special needs and perhaps children with disabilities in the lives of the school committee members. The school committee should likewise advocate for all their employees, including those with disabilities. I invite you to take part in a thought experiment. Most people have someone in their life with a disability. Take a moment to picture that person. Imagine yourself sitting in front of them, face to face, and explaining that although they did their job, they did not do it in the right place, so that your loved one, your child, your spouse, your niece, your nephew, your grandchild will not get the same benefit as their non-disabled peers. Even though they did what the district asked in a way that the district was aware of and approved at the time. You are doing this in person, not through an email or a public announcement. You are sitting with them, looking them in the eye when no one else but the two of you is in the room. What is the expression on their face? What is the expression on your face? What might they be feeling hearing these words come from your mouth? What do you feel as you deliver this news? Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to continuing to work together to ensure all students and employees have access to the resources they need to succeed. I wish I could be with you in person, however, because I have a physical therapy appointment in Rhode Island where I live, I cannot speak with you in person. I would be happy to meet with you in person at another time. Please feel free to email me at paulauger@psbma.org. Sincerely, Paul. Thank you.
Our next speaker is also a Runkle paraprofessional, Ishel McNeish.
I don't think Ishel is here in the room.
Okay. In that case, we will go to district-wide math specialist Julie Boss.
Hi, my name is Catherine Grenzebach. I'm a math specialist at the Lawrence School. I have been an educator in Brookline since 2012, and I'm sharing Julie Boss's comments today. Dear members of the school committee and the Brookline community, we are all fighting for schools that are fully funded and fully staffed, educators who are fully respected, and a district that is fully equitable. We reject the proposed budget cuts and urge you to fully fund our schools. I'd like to speak specifically to RIFs and reassignments. I am deeply concerned about reductions in staff that have been made as a result of the budget gap for the 23-24 school year. The K-8 math department has been reduced by 3.2 FTE, which represents 20% of the teachers in our department. This is something that I don't think many people in the Brookline community know about and will greatly impact student learning across virtually all K-8 schools. I also don't think many people understand exactly what math specialists do, so we'll touch upon that briefly. A large focus of the math specialist job is to support the guiding principles of the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks, which states that all students must have the opportunity to learn and meet the same high standards at their grade level. This sometimes takes the form of math specialists meeting directly with students to support their understanding of grade level concepts. It can also mean coming into classrooms during the regular math instruction to support students, meeting with teachers to assist in planning for how to meet the needs of the range of learners before them, teaching lessons to support the goals of the math curriculum, and providing resources to support teachers in meeting those needs. Much has been said about student-facing staff. While not all of these things translate to direct interactions with students, they all work in concert to support student learning in the classroom, or Tier 1 support. From the Brookline K-8 math program review conducted in 2019, the first recommendation under teaching and learning reads, strengthen Tier 1 math instruction. Tier 1 instruction is the type of instruction that every student gets every day. Another bullet point reads, clarify and communicate expectations and create structures for Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions and enrichment. Math specialists are integral to ensuring that we as a district improve upon both of these areas, which support the achievement of all students, and research shows can reduce the number of referrals to special education. It is clearly not the time to reduce the district's capacity to meet the recommendations of the program review done a mere 4 years ago. There's a lot more I could say, but I've tried to touch upon the most salient points in the 2 minutes I have. Again, we reject the proposed budget cuts and urge you to fully fund our schools, as the majority of voters in Brookline clearly gave you a mandate to do. Respectfully, Julie Boss. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Florida Ruffin Ridley paraprofessional Joey Pincus.
Hi there. My name is Joey, and I'm a para at FRR. I work in the Therapeutic Learning Center. I'm here with the BEU, and I'm here to speak really for the kids. Paras work with the highest needs kids in our schools, and they need consistent support. It makes a really big difference for these kids, and paras need pay and support to stay in Brookline. The turnover rate for paras isn't working out for anybody. We need to do something to keep the paras we have and get more in our buildings. Without support, we're going to burn out or leave and go to Cambridge or Newton, and that's not what the kids in Brookline need. This isn't something we can figure out next year or the year after that. We need a living wage, and we need more support right now, because when we lose a para, a student who needs them or the students that need them lose something that you can't really replace just with another person. Having these real connections, and that takes time and takes consistency, means a whole lot and has a big impact. So again, just really listening to everything. You know, if we don't support the world language teachers, the kids don't learn the new language. I mean, we're hearing they're not learning the languages right now. If we don't pay teachers COVID pay, that's not going to help with teacher retention. They're going to go look somewhere else if Brookline overlooks them like that. We all worked during those years. So really, none of these things are something that we should have to ask for. Thanks.
Our final speaker for the evening is fifth grade teacher Matt Picard.
Can I jump the line? I was supposed to be on there.
Oh, my apologies. Go ahead.
I'm Lily Glickstein. I teach fourth grade at Driscoll. So according to Brookline, only teachers working in person during the 2020-2021 school year were eligible to receive, and in large part already did receive, the COVID pay. But tonight I want to bring up an example of oversight on the town's part, despite these hard and fast lines they drew in the sand, but who should and should not receive this money. I teach fourth grade at Driscoll School and have taught there for the last 5 years, including the 2020-2021 school year, where I came in every day into that building. My apartment is small, couldn't teach from home, even when we were remote. Sadly, I did not receive the $4,000 COVID pay. When I contacted Chris Nyland at Town Hall, she informed me that there was no record of my having taken the COVID attestation form sent around in December. But I promise you, I did take that form. I have a strong memory of sitting on my couch this past December, feeling so excited to get this money, thinking to myself, great, this summer's going to be great. My bank account won't dwindle. Maybe I can afford to stay in my apartment in Somerville, whose rent is continually going up. Unfortunately, due to yet another mishandling of funds and organizational oversight on the part of the town, I don't have that money. And I was told I would not be receiving it since I did not fill out the attestation form. Although again, I can assure you I absolutely did. By Brookline's own criteria, I should already have received this money. And this whole experience is really just a slap in the face. The bottom line is every educator should receive the money. To say that the 2020-2021 school year was backbreaking is not an exaggeration. All of my grueling work that year, double the lesson planning, managing instabilities and on-a-dime schedule changes, to say nothing of the worry over my own health and my students' health, all of that hard work has not been compensated. The other teachers who did the exact same thing I did that year, worried and worked and toiled, got compensated. And on that note, the remote teachers worried and worked and toiled just as hard as I did. School committee members, I am imploring you to give every educator their well-earned COVID pay to help make up for that truly hellish year. Thank you very much.
All right, that concludes public comment for this. Oh, sorry. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Picard, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Matt Picard, and I teach fifth grade at Heath School, and I taught fifth grade in the Remote Learning Academy. There are several educators in the town, not just those in the RLA, who gave themselves fully to making school work for kids during 2021 and the 2020-2021 school year, who have not received the $4,000 bonus in recognition of their efforts and sacrifices. I'd like to speak to my own experiences during that time to give you a sense of the personal impact of the town's decision. In the summer of 2020, in response to the threat posed by the pandemic, the town of Brookline decided to create the Remote Learning Academy in order to meet the needs of the 700 children and their families who needed a remote option. My colleagues and I, in turn, answered the call. The town asked that this school be created, and despite there being no precedent and having only weeks to bring it together, we did it, and honestly, it was really hard. It was hard to take all our existing curriculum materials meant to be delivered in person and innovate to convert them to work online, on Zoom, live, all day. It was hard to be cut off from our homeschool communities, our supports, and our colleagues. And it was hard to try and meet the needs of the many students with disabilities and English language learners and those who are simply struggling with being cut off from their peers. My colleagues in the RLA all went through the same thing, working relentlessly to meet the needs of their students. Some going as far as to hand deliver a desk to a student who had no surface to work on. It was hard work, but it was meaningful work. There was joy when everyone held up their projects made from pre-assembled supply kits that I took hours to make. There was joy when a student got it after I'd been up till midnight the night before preparing the lesson. And when we finally got to see each other in person during our distance meetups. And there was certainly joy when a parent said to me, thank you for taking this horrible situation and making it work for my child. I've been so worried about them through all of this. And it was for moments like this that I wouldn't take it back, $4,000 bonus or no, but I and everyone else who gave their all during the time deserve it, because by not giving it, despite the town saying thanks and we wish we could, you're ultimately saying that what we did and what we gave mattered less, and that's wrong. All educators in the town deserve recognition, appreciation, and stipends for making school work for the children and families of this town during the pandemic. Thank you.
And with that, we will conclude public comment for this evening. Next up, we have presentations and discussions of current issues. Overview of the K-12 Visual Arts Program with Visual Arts Coordinator Donna Sartanowitz.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Donna Sartanowitz, and I am the K-12 Curriculum Coordinator for Visual Arts. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today and to share with you an overview of my department. So I'm going to just share my screen with you here. All righty. There you go. You can see that, right? So as I said, my name is Donna Sartanowitz. I'm the curriculum coordinator for visual arts. And I have been in the district for 19 years. For the first 17 years, I've been a teacher at the high school. And then I moved into my role of curriculum coordinator last year. So I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we've been up to in the last 2 years. I came into this role as you heard, right? Hold on one second. I'm trying to advance this, but it doesn't seem to want to go to the next. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. So as you heard from many of the speakers that we just had during public comment, I too taught through the pandemic, and as did the rest of my colleagues in visual art. And in addition to being a difficult time, it was also a transformative time for us. It gave us an opportunity to really think deeply and differently about what we do and how we do it. And there are really four really key things that came out of teaching during the pandemic that I think were significant for us in going forward with teaching art after the pandemic. And the first thing that we learned was that art making is really good for us, that it's good for our mental and emotional and physical health. During the pandemic, there were so many people who took that opportunity to learn how to draw and paint, or how to play guitar, or how to make sourdough bread. Working with your hands and your heart is an excellent way to maintain your mental health in times of great stress. We also learned that students want and need opportunities to express their own ideas and their own perspectives. They need to hear that their voices matter and their experiences are important. I think we learned that artists have an important role in society. They create and reflect society. They challenge society and culture. They show us who we are and what we value as a society. And I think we also learned that the ability to think creatively and to think flexibly, and to do that with empathy and compassion, those are the things that we needed in that moment. And arguably, those are the things that we need now. So when I stepped into this role with my team, one of the first things that we did was we really thought about these things that we learned during the pandemic. And we discussed how this was going to inform our teaching going forward. So we've always known as art teachers that the work that we do is a place where kids can feel good about themselves, where they can explore their identity, where they can express their experiences, where they develop social and relationship skills. We always knew that this was there, but last year we really took the time to think specifically about what does that mean and where do we see this teaching already embedded in the work that we do. So we began a process, K-12, of really owning this as part of what we do as art teachers. And we let that inform our practice. So we did this together, as I said, K-12. We let it inform our course documents, the things that we make public to families, the documents that we are teacher facing, and the documents that are student facing. And we were specific about how those SEL skills were embedded in that curriculum. We were also so specific about how the role of the artist is core to what we are teaching kids at all levels. We talked about how to help kids build bridges from elementary school to middle school to high school. And we discussed the role of grading. All of these things were thrown into new ways of looking at them due to our experience with the pandemic. I want to talk to you a little bit about each part of my team, starting with my K-8 team. I was incredibly lucky to have inherited one of the most professional, creative, and highly collaborative teams in this K-8 visual arts team. And I thank my predecessor very much for her hiring decisions. During the pandemic, they leaned in to support each other and support students, and really turned out an amazing curriculum that they were able to do remote and in hybrid and in person. So I was lucky to be working with these wonderful people. Still, as we came back, one of the things that we noticed, like many teachers in all kinds of settings, that we were seeing some behavior and engagement issues that we hadn't before. We talk about the learning loss of students during the pandemic. A lot of it was social loss. It was a loss of knowing how to learn in community with each other. And we knew we needed to address this, that this was part of our commitment to social and emotional learning in our classes. And although we are all very committed to this idea, to owning this part of our role, there are some unique challenges to a K-8 teacher. K-8 teachers only see students once a week, sometimes for as little as 40 minutes a week. What that means is that they work with over 400 and sometimes 450 kids a week. That's a lot of kids to know well and to care for individually. And we knew that in order to do this kind of work with this many kids, that we once again needed to lean on each other and pool our collective wisdom and experience to make this happen for kids. So in the summer, last summer, we did a professional development together during the summer. And we did it as a large group, also as smaller groups and individually, to really look at tier 1 strategies that help all students to learn in our classes. So we shared with each other what best practices were, what we did that worked in our classrooms. And we focused on starting the year off right, starting the year off with strong, clear expectations, opening routines, closing routines. And we did this through sharing and through text-based materials, I mean to say, not texts. And then we followed that up this year with a series of SEL conversations that were led by Matt Dubois that focused specifically on middle school students. And we met after school on Tuesday meeting time to talk about clear and consistent expectations, relationship building, and restoring and repairing relationships when things don't go as we had hoped they would. So we did all of this, and we did also doubled down on our sharing of classroom resources, slides, lesson plans, and we've developed a very robust shared Google folder with a lot of these resources that all the teachers can use and share. We had a very special focus on middle school because we knew that our middle school students were really struggling. And even before the middle school review started, we knew that middle school students needed more from us. They need more challenge, they need more variety, and they need more time in art. We could not solve some of the problems. We could not solve the scheduling problems that restrict students to only once a week. So instead, we focused on the things that we could control, and that was what happens inside our classroom. So we initiated a middle school materials pilot, and I infused some money into each of the elementary schools to buy new materials, new tools, and to try out new techniques. So each of the K-8 schools tried different things that they might want to bring into their classroom, and specifically for middle school students. And we brought that back, brought the results of that study back, and shared that with the whole group. In addition, we leveraged the in-house expertise that we already have in the department. So we took the opportunity for all of our K-12 professional development days to do a series of workshops where we discussed the bridge between middle school and high school. And we taught each other some advanced skills for bookbinding, printmaking, ceramics, and most recently, non-darkroom photo processes and digital art, all with the idea of possibly bringing these things to the middle school. So we know from that middle school study that currently at middle school, the students have no choice. They have no choice about their education, about what they want to take, about how to follow their own interests. And they are in the same art room, often with the same teacher in the same chair for 9 years. The middle school review panel found that 54% of middle school students surveyed said they wanted more time in art. And the fact that they don't have a lot of choice in middle school means that when they come up to the high school and they are suddenly inundated with choice, it makes it a difficult transition for them. They've never had the opportunity to choose before. And now they have 3 full departments worth of electives. In addition to visual art and performing art, they also have CTE classes. And as an incoming freshman in visual arts alone, they go from having only one choice in middle school to having the choice of 20 different foundational classes that they can take without a prerequisite. So our thinking about middle school continues in the hope that at some point we will rethink the middle school model. We will be able to offer our students more choice. And just as a preview, we are thinking along offering it in 3 different lanes, similar to what you see here. We have the foundational courses for the high school are listed. So we could envision having a digital media arts course for middle school students, a 2D studio arts course, and a 3D studio arts course. So that's what I've done with my K-8 team. And now I want to talk a little bit about my high school team. So the team at the high school, which I was a part of or have been a part of for 19 years, so I know it very well. It is a program that is the envy of many districts. And I urge you, if you have not visited the UA building in some time, the Unified Arts Building is the building that houses the visual arts and much of CTE classes. You are really missing an opportunity to visit a real gem in the Brookline public school system. Our facilities, our studio spaces, it allows us and our students to operate in a way that is very unusual for high school, and it really more resembles a small college campus when you get there. So please do come and visit, and you will see art on every wall all the time. So when students are learning in the visual arts, it offers them a different way to learn. You are learning with your head and your hands and your heart all at the same time. And we live in a world where this kind of creative, flexible thinking, this kind of empathy and compassion that you learn and you exercise in a visual arts class, this is what is needed now in the world. The classes that are in visual arts, despite the fact that we know these are classes that are good for all students, we were noticing that not all students were taking advantage of the things that we had to offer. And our student population, the demographics of that population didn't match the demographics of the school at large. So what we did is the teachers talked to students, and I went around and talked to all of the program leaders of different programs at the high school, other coordinators, to find out how was the visual arts serving the student population in Brookline, and where might there be barriers to enrollment. And what we discovered is that there were barriers. Some of them were perceptual and some of them were systemic. Much like the time issue in the K-8 world, we couldn't solve the systemic issues, so we decided to go hard on the perceptual issues. So we did that by redesigning some courses with students in mind that we wanted to capture. We did that by inventing new courses that we thought would appeal to those students. We, all of the teachers at the high school each created a website for each class that they had. And we did this so that we could put in the course catalog QR codes and links to these websites. So when a student or a parent was curious about what would I learn in this class, a website that's full of pictures of this is what you will learn in this class. That's what would appear. And we included student testimonials of students that we had in our classes, just talking about why they took the class and why they would recommend it to a friend. We also designed a series of mini zines, which are we sent down to the K-8 teachers because we knew that our K-8 colleagues see all of the incoming freshmen. So they took the mini zines and had the students cut and fold them, and then they had access to the QR codes and links that would bring them to our course of study. So we were doing all of this to try to reach out to families and students to let them know there is a place for you. There is a place for you in the visual arts, and you can find your way of expressing your idea in that place.
Could I just interrupt with a question on that last slide, a clarification?
Sure.
You said there were systemic and perceptual barriers, and the systemic ones couldn't be overcome, but the perceptual ones could be. What's an example of a systemic barrier in that example?
Well, that would be things like scheduling, and it's not that
Oh, I see. I understand.
that it can't be overcome. It was just not within our power to do.
I see. I thought you meant systemic from the student's point of view. You just mean like structural.
Structural barriers and you know, and other things that you know, I only have a little bit of time, so
I get it. I get it. Thank you.
Feel free to tell you the whole report.
That's okay. I think I got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the good news is that we were pretty successful in bringing in some even more people into our orbit in the Unified Arts Building. So our teaching is really a differentiated model of teaching at its best. It's differentiated in every way possible because our foundational classes have all grade levels. So, you know, sophomores, juniors, seniors, freshmen, all working together. And we also have students from all parts of the school, the general education parts, but also the substantially separate programs that are at the high school. And since we are needing to work with all these different students, this year we initiated some interdepartmental collaborative conversations with teachers from some of those substantially separate programs like Winthrop House and RISE and ACE and Excel. And what we did was we came together, both staffs, during collaborative time to share our expertise in service of some of the most high needs kids at the high school. And we are continuing to do that through conversations this year, but we've also received a BEF grant. I wrote the grant with Sarah Ladner Apollo, who's the director of Winthrop House. And we have a grant to start this summer and continue through next year to bring our staffs together and to invite people from some of the other programs to work on using art and art education in all of our practices to help students to cope with the many difficulties that they have, when they have a trauma background, to access the curriculum. So that's kind of what we've been doing in the schools generally. We've also been kind of gearing back up in our engagement with families in the community. During the pandemic, we were not able to meet together and to have big exhibitions for obvious reasons. So this year, these last 2 years, we've been bringing back our big all school shows. We've also started a weekly feature in the superintendent's message called Inside the Art Room, to give you a window onto our work. And at the elementary level, they're bringing back these all school exhibits at each school, and they're doing them in person and online, depending on the nature of the school. Some of them are even connected with all-day art festivals. At Driscoll, they had an all-day Arts Equinox Festival, and Baker's all-school show is on Monday. If you're free during 5 to 6:30, you should go there. Some of the K-8 art teachers also send out monthly newsletters to parents, letting them know what happens at each grade level that they teach, giving them some images and lesson objectives in there. And many of the art teachers at the K-8 level also maintain Instagram accounts for the classroom that offer parents a window onto what's happening right now in the art room. At the high school, we've been doing a series of pop-up exhibitions, and we have done this in various venues, often supporting different events and themed exhibitions that support student voice and identity. We actually have a wonderful pop-up exhibit that is going to be in the STEM Commons of the high school on Monday from, I believe it is 6 to 7. And that's a collaboration between the EL, English language learners, and students in our Art as Activism class, where the students are, the art students are doing portraits of students who have immigrated to this country, and those students are doing poetry to accompany their portrait that talks about their experience and their life. So please come to that. We also did a pop-up exhibit at the Teen Center with mass art to encourage students who are interested in going to art school. And we have an Instagram account. It's called BHS Art Space, where you can daily see just some of the work that we have up in the high school. And we are also really working to have real world connections between the work that goes on at high school and work that can go on beyond this. So our digital video classes have made connections with the video and film industry in Massachusetts, including Brookline Interactive Group, which is working showing this presentation right now. And this has opened up some opportunities for our students to secure internships in getting real world experience in a wonderful creative industry that they can start learning about in high school. This image is actually published in the Harvard University's Arnoldia magazine. And this is work that came out of a collaboration that we do with the Arnold Arboretum and Harvard University with our Drawing for Understanding and Field Science class, which is a scientific illustration class. So they're learning all about kinds of things that they can do in the world that involve their art skills. And we have many more of these kind of outreach and community collaborations on the horizon. So this is just a sort of like a rolling slideshow of student work. And if I haven't used up all of my time, I thought you could ask me questions if you had them while you look at some beautiful work, K to 12.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Any questions? Go ahead, Mariah.
Donna, I don't actually have questions. I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed your presentation. I think that there's multiple things I saw that I really was excited about. And what was the thing we commented about, Suzanne, that I liked so much? Oh yeah, right, exactly. The middle school, doing the sort of feeder of designing middle school programming that can go into the high school. I thought that's really wonderful. I mean, just so many things. I just can't tell you how happy I was to hear the presentation and the innovations, and thinking about the SEL components of your work too, being really thoughtful and intentional about that. There was just so much you talked to that I thought was really exciting and valuable. And I went to the Lawrence School Art Show. I have a Lawrence School kindergartner. I went 2 weeks ago, and some of the art, and there's amazing art being shown right now, but the art that was there was really great. And I loved seeing the different skill levels at each age. And they were doing those things. I took pictures of them because I actually loved them so much. The things where if you look from like the left side, you see one picture, and then as you go to the right side, you see the other picture. It was just wonderful to see the kids' creativity. So thank you so much for this presentation, and to the entire visual arts team for the spectacular work that they're helping our students with, and the spectacular support that they're giving our students. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And yeah, I think that our next year is going to involve a lot of thinking about that middle school transition. And if we are given the opportunity, we want to be ready with what we would do for the students of Brookline. So we'll continue. Thank you.
Helen, go ahead.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm really thrilled that you got that grant with the Brookline Education Foundation to partner with Winthrop House and maybe some of the other special programs at the high school. I know in the past the dance department had done that with, I think it was ACE. I'm not sure. It was either ACE or Excel, one of the two. And it was a really very fruitful partnership where they were able to have those kids participate in a way that they really felt comfortable. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Are you referring to the Arts Infusion?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it was.
Right. Well, we are going
Christian
to,
Polos did it.
right, and we are going to continue to do that as well. But the grant from the BEF is for professional development for the teachers themselves in both departments. So we're going to share our expertise in using art to think about identity and your place and your agency and your dreams, and share that with the teachers of Winthrop House, and they will help. They will share with us their expertise in really working with students who have a background of trauma and severe needs, learning needs.
Right. Well, thank you.
It's going to be good, I think.
I think so too. I'm sure it will.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Natalia.
Hi, Donna. I'm the newest member of school committee, so haven't
been to the United Arts Building. I will be coming to visit. It sounds fantastic. And I want to add that you know, to what Mariah already said, that the choices sounds fantastic. I do have little kids, kindergartners and a fourth grader, and seeing the high school options, I'm a little jealous that, you know, I don't know, they'll have to wait a long time. And so if there's a possibility to bring more to the little ones, even younger than middle school, would be, I think, exciting. But I did have a question, and maybe it's not to you, maybe it's to sort of school committee. Like, does the building, does it get used? Like, I was thinking, I just took a ceramics class at Feet of Clay, and there's like membership, $1,000. Like, do we use the buildings and the art sort of studio space on weekends? Oh, we do. Okay, great.
Yeah, with
Okay.
Brookline has a very
Okay.
Yeah, Brookline has a very robust adult education program, or it was very robust before the pandemic and is coming back. So we work in partnership with Michelle McGlone at the Brookline Adult Education thing, because really the facilities, even though it is probably the oldest continually used building in the district, it might be. I don't know if I can claim that, but I'm pretty sure.
You can claim
Yeah,
that.
I can
It was-
claim that. All right.
No,
it
I'm
is
sorry.
a gem.
Pierce,
It really
I'm
is.
sorry. I have to correct before you continue. Pierce Historical is older. Sorry.
No. Just by a little bit. So it's a really fantastic place, and do come and visit anytime. And if you want to email me, I'll give you a tour.
All right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Sartanowitz, for that presentation and for sharing student art with us as well, and reviewing some exciting opportunities that will be coming to our middle schoolers soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, now we are running over an hour and a half behind, so what I would like to do is truncate this next portion for now and go into it in more detail at our next meeting. But just a quick overview on the discussion of the 2023 superintendent evaluation process and timeline. So many of you are already familiar with this. For Natalia, it will be new if she chooses to complete a evaluation, but it's been the practice of newly elected school committee members can take that year off because they weren't there for the whole time, obviously, for the evaluation process. But for the rest of you, for the rest of us on the committee, it's expected that we will all be submitting these. So we will soon be receiving an evaluation form, which assesses the superintendent's progress toward goals and performance on certain standards, indicators that the superintendent has selected. And these will be the same as last year. So instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. We will discuss and possibly vote on the evaluation at our last full meeting on June 15th. However, we do have the option to potentially push that off to the July workshop. The MASC puts together these evaluation rubrics, and then I collect everyone's evaluations. These are public documents, so they will be posted for the public's review. And what I do is I sort of add up all of our ratings, find the average. I mention that at the meeting where we vote on the evaluation, and then we essentially vote a single rating in each of these categories. In the coming days, I will send to everyone the form just so that you have it to look over, but you may already recall from the one that you completed last year. Any questions? Sure, Stephen and then Mariah.
So will you refresh my memory as to why we vote a rating rather than submit our own and just have all of those aggregated?
It's both. So our own individual evaluations will be made public. In addition to that, the school committee provides a rating, which is an aggregated single.
Is the rating that we vote debated? I
It
simply
can
don't
be.
remember.
So last year it was a simple taking the average, and most of us were very close to the coming up with the same rates across all categories. There were some differences.
And is that an MASC recommendation that we also take that vote?
It is. That's highly common. The vast majority of districts do it that way. And if we have any additional questions for the MASC, Glenn Kuchar is always willing to assist. He provides workshops on superintendent evaluations.
Sorry, can you just remind me again, what's the additional value of having that additional vote as opposed to simply having the aggregate of the submitted vote, the submitted ratings?
I think it's just to show where the school committee as a body stands on the superintendent's performance.
Okay, I'm not objecting. I just wanted to understand.
Go ahead, Mariah.
Last year, we got a overview from Dr. Guillory. Will we be receiving that again?
We will be, yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Suzanne.
Well, just depending on when we get all of this, June 15th sounds pretty soon.
Right.
So I'm just thinking for myself that it's going to be maybe a hard deadline to.
Yeah, so my thinking is if we're not able to get this all together within about a week or so, we may end up holding off our final vote until the workshop, which would be fine because a lot of school committees actually have their discussion on the superintendent's evaluation, the final vote at the workshop. Last year, we were able to get it done a little sooner than that. So that would be my preference, but I don't want anyone to feel rushed. And it's important to be very thoughtful in these evaluations. And in addition to the specific ratings that are given, there are opportunities for narrative responses. And those narrative responses require time and consideration. And so it is a significant undertaking for school committee members. Of course, there's no hard and fast rule about how long answers will be. Some people write several paragraphs and even a page or more, and others write a couple of lines. And it can also vary by question, what it is that each of us sometimes have more interest in some questions than others, and that's fine. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Well, just since you're talking about the workshop, I think we have not settled on a date for that.
So right now, we're currently scheduled for July 18th from 2 to 6:30. We are going to make an effort to try to change that date because I understand that doesn't work for Natalia. July 18th.
Yeah, there's a virtual option.
There will be a virtual option if need be. We would. It
will be.
All right. So are you away all summer? Okay. We'll find something that works for everyone the best we can, but that July 18th date may change. We want to be able to accommodate everyone best we can. Okay. The superintendent also has some scheduling limitations. I think we all do, but we'll try to find something that works. All right. Go ahead, Helen.
What we have done in the past is sort of given our summer schedules to, before it was Robin, now it would be to Betsy. And then maybe through that method, by process of elimination, she can figure out when the most amount of people will be around.
Okay.
Might be a possibility.
Yes, that sounds good. All right, anything further? Okay, then let's move on. Let's move on then to FY23 third quarter financial report. Go ahead, Mariah.
Thanks. I'm going to claw us back some time here because we did this yesterday for a long time. So Ruth Burdell gave us a very helpful, I think she called it third quarter and a half report or something like that. It wasn't quite a third quarter report because it was through the middle of May. The summary is, I'm going to give the summary of the summary. Good news, we are going to be, it looks like we'll be ending the year on a slight surplus. And you all have the report in your packet, but basically it looks like there's a surplus right now projected of around $1.4 million. Ruth made a recommendation, which I think we as a school committee should, I will say we heard it yesterday and we as a school committee should endorse it, which is to, although we don't need to formally do so, but in previous years, there were funds for projector renewals in the capital budget, which unintentionally got removed this year. And so it would be, or I don't know if it's unintentional. They were not included, and it would be good to have those funds. It's about $130,000 for projector renewal. So some of the surplus could actually go into the IT budget to fund that. And it's around it's projected to be about 1.4 million right now. And one of the things we talked about was whether or not we could, some of the funds that had been used for some of the charges that have been allocated to ESSER, which is a multi-year program, could actually be charged back to the operating budget. It looks like there's maybe a limited ability to do some of that because of the way that the funds were drawn down on. But I'm sure, but it was clear that staff will be looking at that. There was also, it looked like some portion of the ESSER funds that hadn't been requested yet. Ruth was also going to check with Kelly Durgan on that to make sure that the funds had all been requested so that we can access them. But overall, it was a positive report. We're with a strong end of year. So that's the summary. And if I forgot anything, almost everyone was there except for you, right? So I was like, there was one person who wasn't there. So if I forgot anything that anyone else wanted to add, but I think that the bottom line is the best news of it all.
All right. Any questions, comments for Mariah? Suzanne, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say again publicly, we said this yesterday to Ruth, so thank her so much for all she's done this year to keep us afloat and more than that. I mean, she really stepped in. She's part-time. She's done a fabulous job. And it's really nice to be at this place at this time of the year and know that things are in good shape. And so I think we all say thank you to Ruth for all that she's done this year.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, for pointing that out.
All right, so now we will move on to school committee actions. First, review and possible vote of FY 2024 user fees, proposed hourly rates, including hourly rates for PSB partners, such as the Brookline Music School and school-based after-school enrichment programs. Back to you, Mariah.
Back to me. So this is something that we had deferred. We had done most of the votes 2 weeks ago, but we had deferred one of them because there were three enrichment programs for which we had not talked to them, new enrichment programs that are coming online. I talked to one of them, Matt talked to one of them. We weren't successful in talking to the third, but the two that we spoke to didn't have a problem with it. So it was for all three, and we got 2 of the 3 and they were on board. So that's my update for that. I'm not sure if you want, we can pull up the slides again so you can see the full table. But if not, we can just do the vote.
I'm fine with going ahead with the vote.
Okay. So do you want me to make the motion?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Let me see what's written down here. Motion.
Right, before you make the motion, can
Yes.
you just describe what you're about to move?
Yes, so this is the hourly rental fees, typically hourly rental fees for all of the different spaces we have in PSB. So when we rent them to, whether it's for profits, there's one rate, whether it's nonprofits, there's a second rate when it's nonprofit partners like the music school, enrichment programs, and so forth, there is a third rate on the chart. And so this allows people who are, for example, want to use the auditorium at the high school, there's a fee that they pay. It also outlines the custodial fees, the ability to access AV equipment and so forth. So it allows us, it's sort of an offset of the wear and tear of the typical use of the buildings. For these programs that we're talking about, they're typically using a classroom and the rate is like $3 an hour. It's a very small charge, but again, it allows us to do some of the offset of maintenance and utilities of running the building.
And can you explain to me real slowly why these after-school programs are enthusiastic about paying a fee that they never paid before?
I don't know that anyone is enthusiastic. I think that people understand that they're receiving a service and that the cost that they're being charged is very minimal and contributes to the overall system in which they are a part, and they appreciate. And so they are supportive and understand the basic concept.
And Stephen, they also charge money for these programs.
As they always have.
Correct. And we have, in the past, I think what happened during COVID, we sort of suspended all fees.
Well, we didn't have programs coming in. These
We didn't, no, but once we did,
Right.
once we did, I mean. I
Hold on. It's just like I'm stupid.
Yes.
We are now about to
This
start
is a good
charging a
question.
fee for the use of space. Previously, when we talked to representatives of the after-school programs, they made a very impassioned and very rigorous and intelligent plea for us to be considering universal subsidies for after-school education on the basis of equity. This seems to be a move in the opposite direction. However, they seem to be enthusiastically on board with this. I just want to understand. That's all I'm asking.
I think that, in my opinion, you're conflating two different things.
Great.
This is my opinion as I understand the entire landscape. One is the question of room fees, and the second question is broader needs of families for after-school support in an equitable function. To me, those issues are different, because an enrichment program, which meets for 6 weeks for an hour in an afternoon, is not solving the systemic issues we have around after-school care and out of school time. And I think that there's two different things here. So how do we as a district systemically provide programming for students that meets their families' needs? That is a much broader, bigger issue than this small issue. So that's, in my opinion, they're conflated. And we as a district might make decisions to do much broader, bigger ways to address out of school time and holistic needs for families. But that doesn't mean that we can't also allocate cost centers relating to use of buildings. So that's my interpretation. I don't know if that makes sense.
I hear you.
Okay.
I understand that. I don't fully, I hear your response. I don't fully understand. It still seems to me that they're now bearing an additional cost for providing a service that isn't the entirety of an equitable after-school opportunity for students in the PSP system, but it's a little bit of one, right?
I mean, I don't think of enrichment, of the way that enrichment is designed, to be the same thing as an after-school care program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
It doesn't, for a working family, it doesn't solve your childcare needs. This is something that you do that's sort of fun once a week or twice a week, or, maybe more, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so the motion is for the school committee to approve the proposed hourly rates that are part of the FY 2024 user fees that were outlined and we have reviewed in previous meetings.
I'll second it.
All right, Mariah, your vote?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Natalia?
I'm gonna abstain because I haven't seen it in detail.
Nancy?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. All right, so that brings us now to discussion and possible vote on budget appropriations warrant article.
David, can I interrupt just a little
Sure, go
bit?
ahead.
Just to say that, I'm really grateful to everyone for going through this process. I thought it was helpful, and we talked about a lot of different issues that came up around this. Not just for this particular one, but this brought up the things around the needs of the extended day programs, which really are of support for families, and for example, the issue of equitable provision of support staff. So I think that there's a lot of, sometimes these things, maybe to your point, Stephen, this feels like, why would they be doing this? But there was a lot of other topics that got aired that people really care about. And so it was a good process, even though I think we talked and met about this 5 or 6 times. So it was substantial use of time, but I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for participating.
And to that point about equitable supports for our families, there's going to be a joint DEIJ policy subcommittee meeting in June. We haven't picked a date yet. That's going to be addressing a policy around that area, and there will be a discussion on how we can provide more supports for families and after-school care. All right, so that brings us now to discussion and possible vote on budget appropriations, warrant Article 7 statement, including the Pierce School construction project appropriation, which will be moved by the advisory committee. And just to bring everyone up to date, many of you already know this, the advisory committee, at least as of now, is recommending the full appropriation of the Pierce School project. There are a couple of amendments that advisory committee is going to be considering at their meeting on May 22nd, on Monday. One of those amendments would reduce the appropriation to $135 million, reportedly to match with the renovation-only option for Pierce that we did not pursue or draw up specific plans for. The other amendment that's been offered is to make the full appropriation contingent upon there not being a finding on a alleged campaign finance violation. So advisory committee will take up those amendments. We don't know what they'll decide yet. And so as a result of this, it's a bit complicated for us in this discussion to know exactly what Article 7 is going to look like when it actually goes before town meeting, because the way the process works is that first by a majority vote, each amendment will have an opportunity to become the main motion. If one of those amendments wins a majority vote at town meeting, then the main motion for Article 7, specifically the appropriation for the Pierce project portion of it, would need to pass, would take over the current main motion and would need to pass by a 2/3 margin of town meeting. Any questions on that? Go ahead, Helen.
Could you just repeat that last piece, because
So ultimately, whatever Article 7's final language looks like, the portion on the Pierce appropriation, in order to be bonded, it needs to pass by a 2/3 majority of town meeting. What we don't quite yet know is what that main motion for Article 7 will look like, because there are those two amendments that advisory committee is going to consider at their Monday meeting, and they may recommend one of them, and town meeting might vote one of them, or they might not. We don't know yet. So I think that in crafting our statements, we want to focus more on what our position is rather than if it's a yes, no. All right.
David, I have a question.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Do we have any knowledge from a legal standpoint whether or not that second warrant or second amendment holds water? In my mind, I think that for me personally, I think that particular amendment that they proposed, authored by Stephen Reeder, borders on, election denial. I mean, both of the overrides passed, whether or not they passed by 5 votes or 23 or what percentage it was. In my opinion, it passed. And I think that this is a lot of words being used in order to stall. So is there any merit to that particular amendment? Because in my mind, it was just school committee people advocating for schools, much in the way that select board people and, advocate for whatever warrant articles they have, et cetera, et cetera. Are there any thoughts, or do we have any background on this?
Go ahead, Mariah.
I would just repeat what I said yesterday at the Finance Subcommittee, which is that just a reminder that this is up to the state office campaign finance, and until we hear from them, there's not really much that I think is valuable in terms of speculation. Whether or not, it's not Stephen Reeders who offered that amendment, it's
Julian Fisher.
Julian Fisher.
From Precinct 15.
Nonetheless, I think that, whether or not we agree or disagree with the substance of it, which I also, like you, disagree, at the end of the day, we're just waiting for the state to make its determination. It's not up to us.
Right, and we don't know what that timeline looks like. Certainly, there's a political process around this and specific legal questions. I'm sure that at town meeting, there'll be many questions for town council.
And I think some have already been proposed to town council, is my understanding, with the amendment to go for, I think it's 138 million that, what's, 3 million here or there, but I think it's 138 million that John Van Scoyoc has put in as an amendment. The question is whether it's even feasible to put that in, because the voters voted on a new school for the with full complement. I mean, the way the language reads, it's not clear that one could substitute another number. Beyond the fact that we know that MSBA will not participate in another number except for the number that we've agreed to and that we signed off on in our school scope and budget agreement. I would like for us to make a strong statement about the magical redesign, and I'm using that in quotes, of the warrant, the amendment to the warrant article that John is proposing. There's numbers that have very little backing on it and would not accomplish what we feel is an equitable school for the Pierce School. I think it would be, in my opinion, I don't even, if that were to pass, I think we as a school committee should not approve it. I think that we've done 4 years of work trying to understand and figure out what needs to happen at Pierce and do it in the most fiscally responsible way. And then for somebody to just throw out an amendment with no backup on what, there's no feasibility. We would have to pay for feasibility again. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. It's fiscally irresponsible, in my opinion.
And I think Helen touches on a good point, and that the dollar figure that was voted on by voters in the override, the MSBA money is that's what the number is. The number is the number. And simply by submitting an amendment doesn't mean that you can just change it. I mean, I'll stop there.
Andy, go ahead.
So do we know that both of these amendments will actually make it to the floor of town meeting, or does it depend on how the advisory committee handles it?
My understanding is that both will be at the floor of town meeting irrespective of advisory committee. So regardless as to what advisory committee offers as their Article 7 motion, anyone else can file an amendment as long as it's done in timely fashion. And the current practice is that it needs to be filed 8 days in advance with the select board, and the moderator must be notified. I believe that both of these amendments met those deadlines. Anyone else? Go ahead,
The
Mara.
only thing I would just add is that if any of the amendments are deemed by town council to be not legally okay, then they wouldn't make it, which I think Helen was alluding to, possibly one of them.
Correct.
Yeah,
One of
being
them has been
eliminated on.
Questioned by somebody in town meeting for the town council to weigh in on whether this is legal, I guess. I don't know if it's legal or if it's appropriate or if it's allowed.
Yeah.
Right. One of the complications is that technically the ballot question did not have a specific number that was appropriated, and that's a state law. That wasn't anything that we chose to do, but by state law, you actually cannot put a specific number. Now, certainly, we would think that the public had an understanding of what the number was.
There were enough signs around talking about the amount.
Right, by both the yes and no campaigns. And beyond that, as Helen was alluding to earlier, the actual language about what the finished product would look like indicated that it's the project that we've contemplated as a school committee and as well as the town. So we'll see how that process plays out.
Well, but yes, we'll see, but we don't meet again before town meeting, and I will be speaking at town meeting, and I would like for us, I don't know if it's too late to get something into the book about these two amendments.
Well, we can certainly vote on what we think as a school committee of the two amendments. I have signed up to speak at town meeting in order to convey the sentiments of the school committee. There's still time for any of the rest of you to do the same. And you're also going to be delivering a presentation.
I'm going to be delivering the presentation with Bernard Green, yes.
Yes.
So on this warrant Article 7, is there a dollar amount for the town meeting?
It would be what the advisory committee is currently recommending, but it's subject to change, is the full 209 million amount, and it's 209
9.9 something.
because the rest of it was already spent.
Okay.
David, are you asking for guidance on a statement from the school committee?
Well, a combination. So I don't think we necessarily want to engage in wordsmithing now. But I do think we probably want to vote on each amendment, as well as the underlying, what we think will be the underlying language of warrant Article 7, and leave me with a little bit of wiggle room when it's actually the presentation to make it match up with whatever the main motion ends up being.
Okay.
Mariah?
I think that I would agree 100% with Helen. I think that we need to be strong and clear that the project that was approved is the project that we're supporting, that these other amendments are inappropriate for all the reasons Helen said, and because they don't meet the educational model that was developed for the school. And that
it's not equitable to
Right.
the other schools.
and further that with regards to the Fisher amendment, that that would, independent of the outcome of the amendment of the ruling, the delay in it would be eliminating the access to the $38 million in MSBA funds, and that would be a terrible mistake, especially given that the state the remedy that the state might impose is essentially education as opposed to an actual, changing of the election. They might say, well, this is not what you should do in the future, but there is no actual election change outcome that would be a result of any OCPF finding. So the implication of the Fisher Amendment is the consequences of it are vastly out of scale and vastly inappropriate. And I think we should just be clear and say those things. And then there's other aspects of warrant Article 7 that we should also be talking about, which is strong support for our operating budget amount, and then also the other components of our CIP. Just want to make sure that when you talk about it, that we hit all of the notes in the song.
Okay.
Thanks.
And just one other point on the Fisher Amendment is that in addition to losing MSBA money while we wait for a response, there's also the escalation costs. So every month that we delay is, what's the amount, about 850,000?
I think it's more.
Even more now?
I think it's
All right.
more. I think it's over $1 million per month. Yeah. So, it's really fiscally, for a fiscal body to endorse that would be totally inappropriate, in my opinion. The
All right.
fiscally responsible body.
So does, Stephen?
I continue to think that the headline should be that it would set a terrible precedent for the town to consider a ballot question to be a mere temperature taking of the town,
Indeed.
and not a mandate.
Yeah.
And I think the claims that various other bodies should not be a rubber stamp really just disguises an attempt to overturn a clearly expressed will of an electorate. And to do otherwise is to set a terrible precedent that would do nothing less than produce a crisis of confidence in governing in this town.
And is that what Brookline wants to be? We want to represent ourselves as election deniers? That if we're not, that's just not okay. The whole thing is not okay.
I just want to echo what Helen said earlier, which is the ballot question. I don't have a language in front of me, but it very clearly articulates a pre-K to 8 school, a new garage for the town, lots of site work, and a renovation option clearly takes all those things off the table and flies in the face of the language that was presented to the electorate.
David, do you want to vote? What do you want from us?
Yes, I think we want to, we know what the amendments say, so we can vote on those fairly easily. So would someone like,
Yeah, no.
Everybody knows what the amendments say. Okay, good.
all right, so would someone like to move that we vote on the John Van Scoyoc amendment?
I'd like to.
All right, thank you, Nancy, and I'll take Helen for a second.
Are we voting no action? We're voting to recommend no action, correct?
Voting to
Just wanna Make
recommend-
sure what the wording is that we're.
Voting to recommend no action on the John Van Scoyoc amendment.
No action or not favorable?
No action means not pursuing it.
No action means no.
But on an amendment,
It's not, that means no action.
still called no action.
Yeah, I think it's still called no action, because you would have to, you're saying, do you want to vote yes? No, we're taking no action on this one. I mean, however you want, we could say school committee,
We oppose
We
the,
reject it in this, that's fine if
In
we
the
want to
most
go.
vehement
That's
way
right. We
possible.
reject the two amendments vehemently. I mean, I was thinking that was going to be the wording of the first amendment.
Abhor and detest.
all right, so opposition to the John Van Scoyac amendment.
Okay.
Vehement opposition.
All right, Mariah, your vote?
I vehemently oppose. We're just doing one amendment right now?
Yes, let's do them separately.
Okay, I vehemently oppose
I
the,
vehemently oppose.
yes.
All right, Stephen?
More vehemence.
Andy?
I abhor and detest.
Helen?
I vehemently oppose.
Natalia?
Strongly oppose.
Nancy?
I too vehemently oppose.
Valerie?
Vehement opposition here.
And I also oppose. All right. Next, would someone like to move opposition to the Fisher amendment?
I'll move that one.
All right, Andy moves it. Stephen seconds. Your vote, Mariah?
Vehement opposition.
Suzanne?
I oppose.
Opposed.
Stephen? Andy?
Abhorrence and detestation.
Helen?
Vehemently oppose.
Natalia?
Oppose.
Nancy?
I vehemently oppose as well.
Valerie?
Oppose.
And I also oppose. All right. Now,
Now, just for the record, we're on for the,
We've already taken the vote on warrant Article 7, and we
Okay.
unanimously.
I don't think we actually did. We held off on that. So why don't we vote on that too? So I will move that we support fully funding the Pierce project. Again, we don't quite know if that'll be Article 7 or not. So let's just call it supporting full funding of the Pierce project to the tune of the $209+ million.
I'll second it.
All right, Suzanne seconds. Your vote, Mariah?
Absolutely.
Suzanne?
Wholeheartedly support.
Stephen?
Yeah, yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Natalia?
Yes.
Valerie?
1000% yes.
Nancy?
Absolutely, yes.
And I also vote yes. All right. Now, why don't we talk a bit about the operational budget? So I'm assuming that we would like to fully fund our operational request. Go ahead. Mariah.
Yesterday at Finance, the Finance Subcommittee recommended a motion to the full school committee. I don't know if those slides are available, Betsy, to pull up, or Linus. Because I think there's the wording of the motion on the slide, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, we have it here.
There it is. Okay. So I'm going to make the motion to approve the town meeting appropriation request voted by the select board on May 9th, 2023 of $130,702,376 for the public schools of Brookline.
Second.
Your vote, Mariah?
Do we want to talk about the $2,309 before?
No.
No, we don't want to. Okay, fine. We talked about it yesterday. We won't talk about it. Yes, I do vote yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Natalia?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. All right. Okay, any other warrant Article 7 related votes?
Don't we want to talk about CIP?
All right. Do you have a specific proposal in mind?
I think we want to endorse all of our CIP requests, including with particular note, the $115,000 that will allow us to move staff from Clark Road to Newbury or another destination for them. But that's what's going to allow us to successfully and smoothly, it's one portion of what allows us to successfully and smoothly exit that lease. And so we should, I think, because that one is the one that is still, there's still some conversation about.
To the best of my knowledge, at the advisory committee, they actually voted favorable action on
They
it.
did, and yet it's still being talked about.
I didn't,
It
I
was
think
talked
it's-
about yesterday at Finance.
I think this is different, 150.
It's not, it's the same 115.
Okay.
Yep. It's a zombie. It keeps coming back.
Betsy, were you able to capture that language? All right.
We enthusiastically support all our CIP stuff, especially 115, right? Okay.
Yes. Is there a second?
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Suzanne. Your vote, Mariah?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Natalia?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes, I also have a question, but I can ask it after the vote.
All right. Valerie?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Go ahead, Nancy.
There's something that happened in public comment that bothered me. One particular thing, and I'd like to say it for the record or have it explained for the record. In our finance meeting yesterday, we showed a surplus and somebody publicly commented that we just have money coming out of our ears. Can somebody clarify that? That clearly we don't have money coming out of our ears, and what the surplus is as opposed to where we are with the proposed budget cuts. Because from yesterday, from what I understood, it was the surplus. It's not a one or the other. It's not from the same bucket. Is that true, Mariah?
I'm sorry, but I don't actually understand the question.
Okay.
I need a little
So-
bit more. Sorry.
So yesterday, when Ruth presented the budget, we have a surplus in certain categories, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody in public comment must have seen that meeting, I'm guessing, and said, oh, you have a surplus of over $1 million. Excuse me. You have money coming out of your ears. Please don't say to us that we have no money. I would like to address that, not specifically, but perhaps add some clarity around it, that we don't actually have money coming out of our ears and what the surplus is, as opposed to the reasons why we were forced to make some of the decisions we did.
I think you need to differentiate between current year budgets and future year budgets. There's just two different things happening.
And I, excuse me, I think I understood that as well, but so it's definitely an apples and oranges situation. It's not one or the other. And just because we have this, there's money in a surplus doesn't mean that we have money coming out of our ears.
And I think the other piece, if I may.
Yeah.
We're just in the middle of May right now. There's still another couple of months till we close out our budget. You know, things happen. I think we should feel good that we don't have a freeze on
That's right.
supplies, that we are able to at least breathe this year.
I think it's your point. I mean, this is like budgets break different ways, right? Sometimes they
Correct.
break for you and sometimes they don't. And it's very
Exactly. Yes.
fortunate that the budget broke for us and through, careful stewarding of the funds and luck, because it's a combination of the two.
And some of it not being able to fill positions.
Right, exactly. And which, as Ruth mentioned, there were,
right.
positions that went partially unfilled during the year and special education, out of district costs that ended up which for numerous reasons, they changed during the year. And so I think that we're lucky it broke that way, but that doesn't mean more than exactly that is what it comes down to. The budget for next year is fully designed and there isn't money coming out our ears.
Right.
Sorry.
We all wish there were, right?
Yeah.
Just to put a finer point on it, when you say it could break one or the other way, the amount that you named in the surplus was roughly the amount that we were cutting. So I think that was a concern that was raised in public comment. But the thing to raise in response to that is that it's not a recurrent surplus.
Right.
It's a one-year surplus, and it could break a different way next year.
Exactly.
So it's not responsible to apply that surplus to cover what we were cutting this year. That's why.
Or can you? That's not the way the budgets work.
But
Yes.
even could we?
Right.
It's not something that would be fiscally responsible to do. Whether we could have asked for more and an override, I feel like that's a reasonable and open question that can be discussed and people could have different opinions on, but that's not a recurrent surplus. So Nancy, that's my response to that question.
And I think, Stephen, you addressed that. So I think that you addressed that comment clearly. So I'm glad, thank you for that. But,
And I really think we should be cautious. There are still things that can come up at this time of
absolutely,
year,
Helen.
you know? And so
Absolutely.
I think we really have to be careful. You want to have that little buffer so that you can make it to the end of the year and be in good shape.
And in fact, as Ruth talked about, there were unexpected costs that happened last summer. That fortunately, other things broke this way so that we could cover it, right?
Right.
And they can be very significant, as you're alluding to.
Exactly.
All right, so tying back to the warrant Article 7 statement, we do have a communications team of 3 who I'd like to work with in crafting this statement, since this will be delivered on behalf of the entire school committee.
Okay.
All right. So now let's move on to discussion and possible vote on FY24 budget request. Yes, we just did that. That's right. All right. Now, on the school calendar, we're actually going to hold off on that until the next meeting.
David, sorry, going back to the,
Sure.
I did also sign up for speaking for peers, but should
Okay.
I not? Like,
No,
fine to-
it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yes. All right, so let's move on now to subcommittee and liaison reports. Helen, capital improvements.
Val, do you want to talk about Driscoll?
Sure.
You don't have to. I can talk about what happened.
Well, I don't know, I was hoping to do it the next meeting, Helen. I'm still waiting for information from Gilbane on that.
All right. Sure, and we're meeting soon, so there's no problem. And we will have we did not have a capital subcommittee meeting this last month. It got connected with all sorts of things, couldn't get a quorum, and so we had to cancel and weren't able to reschedule. We will have one in June. Pierce is at a standstill. We're waiting for a town meeting, as people know. Driscoll is moving along. It's still under budget, which is good. I mean, there's still contingency monies, so we're feeling pretty good about that. And the high school is sort of slowly, we're trying to end that one, and it's been difficult with the third floor. There are just always punch list items and things like that, in addition to the ventilation system being somewhat problematic at Tappan, at 22 Tappan. That's being worked on by both the architect, the engineers, and our people, Charlie and his people, and we're trying to make it, make sure that what we paid for and what we expected to get is there and working properly. So that's one thing that's been out there. I think that is it. Oh, and the street work, just so people know, will be done this summer around the high school. Some of it has already been done. Some of you may notice that the area that's supposedly meant for cars, which is next to the sidewalk, is now in the middle between the bikes on one side, in front of the high school. There's some new markings on the road. They are very difficult to understand. I have a feeling the Transportation Board will change their mind about how to use it, but because nobody is doing it. People are parking where you're supposed to be driving and driving where you're supposed to be parking.
So Helen,
Yes.
if people were to follow the signs, which is to say, do not enter between 9 and 4.
Oh, no, 9 and 4 is not the problem.
Oh, yeah, it still is the problem. People go through there all the time. So
that I haven't seen as much.
I have every day. I see it because I go by. every
That
day.
the
I
barrels.
see it too, Hal. They don't always put out if you don't put out the
put the
barrels,
barrels out
people
every
drive
day.
right
The
through.
kids are really good about getting them out there.
I was surprised. I just wanted to back up. If the barrels aren't there, people ignore them.
Okay, well, that's something we can certainly work on. That's easy enough. But the other problem is still there. But there will be work on all the streets and with markings and with bike lanes. And it'll be interesting how it begins in September with the reduced amount of lanes for cars. But that's all in the works and it should be finished by the end of the summer.
Sorry to be dense.
and-
What do you mean by reduced amount of lanes? It's only one lane all the way around, right?
No, there's 2 lanes on Tappan Street going from the
Oh, you mean up the hill?
yeah, up the hill.
It's going to turn to one lane and a bike
Yes.
lane? Oh.
Yes, because there's going to be a bike lane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And actually, it has a sort of neck down at one point and then goes back out. I don't know if that will continue, and I'm not exactly sure about the full design. I must admit I wasn't involved in it. The one other piece that I think I mentioned last time, so you can tell me if I did, the $1 million that we got in the CIP for this summer's work, for next year, basically to do repair and maintenance, mini projects. We have basically decided and gotten bids to work on the 2 schools that are closed for the most part. And the bigger quantity of the work would be at Lincoln School. The school was opened in 1994. So that makes it, help me, 30 years old. It needs a refresher. And it's important to do it because it will lengthen the time of the building. It will make everything come up to speed. The building is in great shape, overall. The systems are good and all that, but we will be doing painting, flooring, both carpet and tiles. We will be, and that will be all on the first floor. We've already replaced the stage floor that was damaged with water there, and the seats will be recovered. Actually, it's an interesting program, a prison program that the corrections facilities run, where the prisoners do the work on reupholstering all the chairs, so all the chairs will come out and go back in.
Lockers too, right? Wasn't there?
What's that?
Lockers? Wasn't there something?
There's
about
going to be some
lockers?
lockers, new curtains on the stage. So those are the basic pieces of what will happen, and the woodwork. There's a lot of beautiful woodwork in Lincoln that will be refinished and brought up to speed.
Ellen, will any of the lighting be addressed at this time or not for the stage there in the auditorium?
The sound system will, I know. I don't remember. There was problems with the sound system there, so I don't remember if also the lighting was going to be worked on for the stage. The other big piece that we're doing, the principal at Baker had requested that we remove the seats, the stationary seats in the auditorium at Baker, so that the room would be a much more flexible use space. And so we've actually figured out that we can take them out, plug the holes, which are very small holes. At first I thought we'd have to carpet it. That was the thought of everybody. And then when we saw where they had taken out some of these, what are they called? Stationary seating, it's just a hole smaller than a dime that really doesn't show because we saw where it was refinished. So they will plug them, refinish the whole floor, paint the actual auditorium, and clean the drapes, the drapes and the stage curtains, and hopefully also redo some of the electrical work there. So it'll be a significant project, but it'll be a much better use space that we're planning on for there. And then whatever's left over, we'll be doing painting either continuing and doing more at Lincoln or do a little bit at Runkle. So that's the plan for the $1 million, and all that hopefully will be spent by the end of the summer so that it'll all be ready for school in the fall.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask Helen?
Sure, go ahead.
I just did a quick Google search. There seems to be mixed opinions about using, like the program that uses labor in prisons because they don't actually pay very well for the incarcerated folks. Have you thought about that? Have you spoke to them? I don't know. I'm a little concerned. In my work, we do a lot of work on incarceration and health, and I've read a lot about sort of the underpayment of incarcerated folks. And so I understand it's sort of a skills building so that when you leave, you have this skill set. I think there's like a lot of people who oppose it because they think it's skills building, but if you don't actually have a chance to leave and things like that. So I don't know. I'm a little cautious and wary to.
I hear what you're
that.
saying. This is through a state contract that we're doing
Yeah.
it. I'm not sure we could afford to do it in any other way.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other piece. I mean, I hear the arguments on both sides, what
Yeah.
you just said. You know, on the one hand, for those prisoners who get that training, it's 100% worth it and allows them
I mean,
to.
it troubles me a little bit. I know I'm the newest member, so I'm not going to sort of say anything more, but I think in general, like thinking about whether that makes sense as a school systems to be, being part. Anyways, I don't know enough. But I'm just raising it as a.
Well, I appreciate you
Yeah.
bringing it up, and I will look into it further. But I think at this point, we've sort of gone a little bit further than.
Yeah, I understand.
than,
I'm coming to this very late.
But thank you. Thank you. We'll look into it.
All right, Suzanne, curriculum.
Yeah, we met on Tuesday. We had a meeting, and we had two topics. One was summer programming, and so Gabe and Michelle went over that with us. There is a handout. I'm sure if people want it, they could get it from you, Betsy, could they? That gives just kind of the nitty-gritty of the programs and the different programs we have. The number of students coming to us has been steadily increasing each summer since the pandemic. So they're pretty full, the programs, but they're the strong programs, the good programs, and you can either ask questions or look at that. Sure.
I can't remember where this was confirmed, but do you recall that last year there had been, I believe it was Title I funding used to support student attendance at rec camps after students went to Camp Gator or such? And I believe I heard that they're doing that same thing again. And did they discuss that at that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some afternoon programming.
Yeah.
Because our programs just go in the morning.
Right.
So there is going to be.
So there was the partnership
Yeah,
with rec
there is,
and they were
yes.
paying for that, which was really nice for the
Right,
students who
right.
needed it. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was what, was voted at town meeting or something. I mean, there was something, not town meeting, but there was, rec department has scholarships for.
This was something that we were funding, I thought, through Title I. I don't think it's out of that scholarship pool of money.
I'm not sure.
Then I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not sure it's Title I that's paying for that.
I thought it was last year, but maybe it's something else this
I
year.
don't- I don't
I
know.
don't remember.
Could look into
Okay.
that.
It may have been ARPA funding.
Might have been ARPA.
No?
Okay. And our second topic was looking at program review implications. In particular, we looked at, there were three that they were looking at, child study teams, the disproportionality, and the middle grades. And a little bit of social studies was in there. So they presented what they have. It was really a first effort to present that data. They are going to bring it back to the whole committee. I thought it was worthwhile that the whole committee should hear this. I think they're going to tweak how they present it. But essentially, they found that all three are aligning with, we think, with the strategic plan, the 3 to 5 year strategic plan we're going to have. And it does have a lot to do with establishing standards aligned with curriculum and engaging leadership and professional development, making sure that there are consistent assessment data and protocols for child study teams, and including suggestions for instructional walkthroughs. They did this with 182 classrooms, and there was some really kind of fascinating data they came up with that they will share with us. I think, Betsy, when are they sharing it? Or David, you know, Andy, June 8th or the next one? The 15th? They're coming to share this with everybody. We've bounced it around. I don't remember. It's coming
It
up.
is coming up. It'll be
It's
in
coming.
June.
It'll be soon. It's coming up. Yeah.
You got that, they were all like,
None of us.
I know where it is when you originally put it.
No, we pulled it and put it later, I think. Yeah. So that's pretty much it for curriculum.
Okay. Valerie, diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice.
Thanks, David. As you mentioned earlier at a June meeting, either at the June 12th policy meeting or at a later date in June, we're going to meet with policy in a joint meeting to discuss primarily inclusivity in the life of a school, a topic that we'd raised at DEIJ and actually at another combined meeting. So we're going to look at policy around that and invite Lisa and others to participate in that meeting. And I'm currently working with Safe Schools and GLAD on updating a more inclusive transgender policy to apply to our non-binary students in a more equitable fashion. That will be presented as well.
All right, thank you. Sure.
When the discussion of the policy around the after-school programs came up, I had reached out to Lisa and CC'd you and Val, and we talked about setting up a meeting, which was going to be like, it was going to be this week or next week because I was away last week. Do you like, I'm going to get that conversation going?
Yes,
so that, okay.
absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
All right, Mariah, finance.
We met yesterday. We discussed everything already today that we discussed yesterday, so I don't have anything else to add.
And on accounts payable, anything exciting like Trout?
There was something really exciting this past week. I wish I could remember. No, it wasn't, because I was away this past week. Wasn't I, Andy? It was you this past week. And I just did the warrant for this week. Oh, one exciting thing from this week, now you're gonna, since you asked, I saw that we paid the auditor, so I asked Linus, you know, do we have the audit report? And we got another, yeah, and he just forwarded it to me, so we got another good DESI end of year audit, so that's always nice. And then it's the audit, it's not.
Wait, Mariah, what? What did we get? Another?
Every year, it's just, you get an audit, just like the town gets an audit. And
Right.
Anyway, so the audit was a nice audit that everything was good. So that's always great.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to mention, which I didn't mention earlier, was when we were talking about the consent agenda, which I did mention yesterday because I was excited about it, was that we got a grant for Cartwheel Care, which is a program that provides, I'm very tired right now, so I'm stumbling over my words, but essentially short fuse mental health services for teenagers so that, or I'll say for, I don't think it's just teenagers, but it might be. Anyways, this is so that for students, because as we all know, therapy has been difficult to access. And so this is a program that PSB is contracted with to provide additional mental health support and therapeutic services for students. And I'm really excited about that. So it has a financial implication. It's not really the warrant, but it is exciting that that's going to be coming on board for PSB students.
Do you know the timeline for that?
You know, it's interesting because I want to ask Lisa. She's not on right now, is she? No, she's not. I don't know if anyone else who's on knows, but back in March, I think it was, I saw that Salem was doing it, and I wrote to her and I said, you know, oh, and I think that it, I think it must be maybe already funded because the grant I think already started, but I don't know. And it's something that I'm really interested to know because I think the more important thing is how does everyone else know that we have it, like so that they are starting to take advantage of it. Yeah. And how do we get that
Why
word
don't
out?
we ask Linus to bring back some information about it at the next meeting?
Yeah.
We know.
That's a
Or
good
even
idea.
before the next meeting, depending, I mean, if there's something to share or even like what the plan is to make sure that, I mean, I assume staff know, but I think it's just an exciting benefit to offer the community. So something really valuable. I mean, there's so many exciting benefits of PSB, but that's one more.
Suzanne?
Are you done, Mariah?
I'm so done.
Well, just because I'm switching. I
Okay.
want to go back to curriculum. I'm so sorry
Sure,
for
go
just
ahead.
a second. But I just want to welcome Dr. Jody Fortuna, who is on the meeting now, and she was at our, she was newly on board, I think this week. Last week was her first, when was her first week? This week. This week was her first week. Welcome on board, Jody. I'm saying this so poorly. And she attended our meeting, a curriculum meeting.
All right.
You want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, thanks. There.
All right, and Suzanne, back to you again, government relations.
Yeah. Yeah, Val, I need you on this one because she knows about the state budget. Is there anything you want to tell us about the state budget?
Sure. The Senate Ways and Means released their budget last week. Amendments are due by noon tomorrow, and it will be debated starting on the 23rd of May, so next week. We actually talked about this, I guess, yesterday at Finance. So the per pupil minimum, as in the House budget, went up to $60 a pupil. So that'll be a net positive to Brookline of about $220,000, depending upon our enrollment, but in that ballpark. So that's sort of the one piece. The other is that school meals, universal school meals, are looking like they're going to be funded in the Senate budget as well. To continue.
Thank you, Val.
All right, anything further, Suzanne?
No.
All right, Andy, negotiations?
Yeah, we're continuing to work on the paraprofessional contract. Our most recent meeting with the BEU was on May 9th, and our team will be meeting on May 25th to discuss our counter proposals to what the BEU has presented so far. And we have further meetings with the BEU now scheduled for Friday, June 2nd and Wednesday, June 14th.
All right, policy last met on May 8th. We reviewed the wellness policy, specifically around physical education. We also discussed the transgender rights policy, and as Valerie mentioned in her remarks, it's looking like the transgender rights policy will be folded into a broader non-binary students policy, for which there's already some language by the state that's very much on point. We also discussed student safety. So we had some public comment at the beginning regarding the recent incidents with the BB gun, and that sparked some conversation at our at the policy meeting on May 8th around existing policies that deal with safety, well-being, security. Specifically, we looked at the student safety and well-being policy, the school safety and security policy, and accident prevention and emergency plans policy. It was a very preliminary discussion. We're going to be reaching out to building leaders to solicit their input, and we will continue to have discussions around those policies. Then we also discussed developing a PSB communications policy. It's been brought to our attention from various stakeholders that perhaps it would be helpful if we streamlined the process in which the Public Schools of Brookline disseminates information about certain incidents that occur, and when the decision is made to issue a communication, what those communications should entail. This is not intended as providing specific, narrow, rigid demands of PSB leadership in terms of what they communicate, but perhaps some general guidelines and just some broad content areas that should be included in those communications. And so we will continue discussing that at subsequent policy meetings. There was also an update from Stephen on the sustainability panel. Stephen, do you want to comment on that a little further?
Sure. We've released a call for volunteers for a climate and sustainability task force. We started to receive some applications. I've received a lot of comments to me recently in the past couple of days that people are intending to apply. So hopefully we'll receive a lot more applications in the next couple of weeks. Perhaps we'll extend the deadline by another couple of weeks. But I also want to urge people, if they're listening, to apply and to spread the word through their networks to apply to this task force.
All right. Are there any additional liaison updates? Helen?
So it's sort of a liaison. I guess I made myself the liaison. Dr. Guillory had told us about the Hate Ends Now cattle car exhibit. And that actually happened at the high school. For those who don't know, it's a replica of a cattle car that would take Jews and other prisoners to the concentration camps. And within it, there's sort of a sound and light show, I guess you call it, where they project up onto the walls, people speaking, the experience happening as you're standing there. And it's a very powerful exhibit. All of our 10th graders went through it. It was open to the public from 6 to 8.
Where was it, Helen?
It was in the quad. In the end, it ended, we thought we would put it outside, and in the end, we decided to put it within the quad. Many kids just came on their own to go in with a class and to see it. And there was the community, the availability for the community to come from 6 to 8 on Thursday night. And we didn't do a real good job of publicizing that. And so the hope is to get this program possibly endowed. It's part of the 10th grade curriculum, also part of the 8th grade, which maybe at some point in the future. But I'm working on that now to see if we can't get a donor to endow it and then have it at least for the next 5 years or so. And if that happens, I'll make sure to let people know ahead of time and make sure that we get the links out. There was the timing and the election sort of went together. I tried to get the Brookline News to put it in, and they didn't get it in either. So, but what I can say is it was very successful. Somehow the word got around through parents. Anthony Meyer, the head of school, did publicize it to parents, and people did sign up, and they were filled from 6 through 8. They also brought along artifacts from survivors, Jewish stars, different, identity cards and things like that, that the kids would either go and see that after or before, and there were docents there to help them to understand what was happening. It all, I think it went very well, and I think it was well received by the high school. So just wanted to let people know that.
Any other liaison updates? Mariah?
I just have a question about subcommittees. What's the timeline for reassigning, right? Yes, like subcommittee liaison reassignments, just so I know.
So usually we do that at the workshop. We announce what the new assignments are.
Okay.
If there is something that's particularly urgent that needs a modification, we can do that beforehand. Okay.
Natalie, have you got any subcommittee assignments?
I don't have any yet. I guess I will get them in July, or I've been coming.
I think I'm going to give you some a little sooner than that. So
All right. I'm going through as many as I can.
Can we have a new business
Yeah.
moment of welcoming Natalia?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yes, please.
For new business, can we warmly welcome Natalia to the school committee?
Yes, welcome aboard.
Sorry, I was late.
Yay, we're so glad you're here.
That's Brookline time.
It's Brookline time. Yeah. It's the D-line time.
All right, so we do have an executive session docketed. So I move that we meet in executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purposes. Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Brookline Educators Union Paraprofessional Unit, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigating position of the committee, and the chair so declares. And purpose 7, to review and approve executive session minutes from the April 10th, 2023 meeting. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Stephen. Your vote, Mariah? Yes. Suzanne?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
Natalia?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. We will not be returning to open session. So for those of you who are watching, this is the last full school committee meeting for the month of May. I know that may be very depressing to you, but you are going to have ample opportunity to watch advisory committee on Monday, town meeting then closely follows after that. So definitely a lot in motion. All right, good night, everyone.